Sometimes incredible changes occur in life, and outside the window, a spacious valley appears with hills and a small village visible in the distance. A line of distinguished guests gathered along the high road leading to the house. And most importantly, the heroine suddenly becomes a little girl. The girl's day started off poorly. From the very beginning, she broke her phone in the middle of the street, returned home, and drenched in tears, fell asleep on the bed. Because she had to repay the loan for another year, and when she opened her eyes, she turned out to be a 6-year-old girl. Priscilla saw that outside the window there were unusual architectural solutions, uncharacteristic for a city dweller, and unreal landscapes, as if they had come out of the pages of some fantastic book. Priscilla looked at herself and her hands, not understanding how this happened. She screamed that she didn't need this and asked to be returned home. But nothing changed from day to day. Change did not happen until that very event occurred. One moonlit night, she decided to run away from home, but fate intervened, and she met her favorite character from one novel. This was the hero she adored all her life. Priscilla hadn't been particularly interested in the novels up until that point, but now she started following every issue and spin-offs thanks to her favorite villain. Of course, she imagined that man as an adult, but no matter how he looked, she still adored this hero. When she met him, she immediately realized that she was in a world of eternal winter. But I wasn't very upset, because I saw him. The girl realized that she was incarnated in the body of Priscilla, the tragic hero of the novel. She was furious and didn't understand why she was so weak. Priscilla didn't want her favorite heroes to see her like this. She wanted to do something with herself in any way. She ran and jumped from the steps, but the personal maid of the sacred maiden Luciana stopped her, saying that it was dangerous and she could harm herself. Priscilla was annoyed by Luciana's words because she told her what she could and could not do. Priscilla decided to smile sweetly so that Luciana would forgive her, but Luciana did not react, and Priscilla became upset and realized that her maid had become smarter and no longer responded to a sweet smile. Luciana asked the girl not to stand so close to the window anymore because it was dangerous. Priscilla agreed and promised not to do it again. Luciana told the girl that today was an important day and asked her to come with her to help get ready. The 12 elders of Bios stood and waited for the sacred maiden to appear. When she came in, they told the girl that she looked very lovely on this day and wished her blessings. They were sorry to part with her, but that was the tradition. The girl was greeted by a man named Pontiff Raphael. He said that she was a sacred maiden who was important to them. Priscilla returned the greeting, and the man asked if she knew what day it was. She replied that she knew because today was the day when she needed to choose a family. All sacred maidens are required to leave to see the world and then return, so they must choose a family that will care for them until adulthood. But the problem was that the family's choice was not easy. Fate did not deem Priscilla happy in the family. According to the plot, she ended up in a family where they did not value her, using her in their own interests and treating her poorly. In that novel, the child was often fed boiled sweet potatoes, as it was a cheap food for the poor. The girl understood that if she did not choose that cowardly family on that day, then she could avoid an unhappy life. The man said that she looked pleased, and that made him very happy. The girl had a good feeling, and the man invited them to get down to business. He ordered the candidates to be allowed inside. The doors opened, and many different people entered. Priscilla watched this with great pleasure because she knew who was who and none of them suited her. And suddenly, the one she was waiting for came. Priscilla quickly rushed towards him, ignoring the others and shouting that it was her dad. From the moment they first met, she made a firm decision. The male villain from the novel will be her dad. She ran up to him and threw herself into his arms. Her new life, in the guise of unfortunate Priscilla, began to sparkle with new colors. The man was surprised to see her. Priscilla said that she appoints him as her father. Priscilla decided that no matter what, she would do anything to live with her favorite character. All the men shouted that all this was simply unthinkable, because their beautiful, expensive sacred maiden and that very cruel Emperor Melchiades were two different things. This is absolutely unacceptable. Many objected to this and asked the chief to reconsider their decision. Priscilla sat smiling and realized that things would not be so easy, and the elders would object more than expected. The men did not understand how Emperor Melchiades even got on the list of applicants. They refused to send the girl to such a shameless person. Elder Dominic said they must accept this because the choice of family is a sacred tradition. This was a historical legacy, and they cannot accept the result without maintaining order. Priscilla understood that everything would be as she said, but she could not rely on luck in her business, especially when she knew in advance that everything could end. Priscilla understood that an accident could inevitably put her in the hands of a family that would quickly turn her life into hell. In the novel, Priscilla's adoptive family was predetermined, and she is sickened to even imagine life with such people. But Priscilla promised herself that she would never allow this to happen and would fight for her happy life. Suddenly, Priscilla turned to her grandfather Pontiff with a request to help her. He too was not delighted with her choice, and said that the chosen people should not only protect the sacred maiden, and also to train her, so this is not an easy task on which the future of this world depends, and he cannot be sure that that man will be able to complete the task. Therefore, there was an order of ceremony that took into account all controversial issues and helped to make the right decision. He said that they would listen carefully to Priscilla first, and the pontiff asked if she would mind if he asked why she chose that particular person. Priscilla realized that this was her chance, and she needed to convince those people that he was a good fit. But Priscilla realized that no one would really believe the words of a 6-year-old, but there was still a way to talk to the pontiff and the elders and try to do at least something. The girl decided to try to prove the fairness of her choice, saying that she had a vision that suddenly she heard someone's clear voice. In my head, I definitely felt a divine revelation as soon as that man crossed the threshold of their temple. A sparkling halo appeared around him, and a gentle voice whispered that this was the same person. The elders were shocked and looked at the girl in horror as rays of light actually came from her, and they invited the Sacred Virgin to pray. Priscilla really saw the shine of the crash, so it wasn't all just a lie. They began their prayer, and Priscilla in her head asked for forgiveness for her little lie for the fact that she really wants to live with her beloved. In this world, she was ready to entrust her entire life only to Melchiades. Melchiades spoke with Duke Achillo Gramblion. He did not believe the words of Melchiades because he was very surprised that the emperor could really become the father of a sacred maiden. He asked him to repeat it again. Achillo asked if he was against the path of destruction of the sacred Bios Empire. The emperor ordered him to shut up, saying that he too had no words. The emperor did not understand what was happening at all because he did not go there for the child at all. Aquilo asked that His Majesty confess honestly that he had threatened the sacred maiden, and said that no matter how cruel he was, it was impossible to do such a thing. The emperor told him not to really open his mouth. In any case, the planned 3-month trip was reduced to 1 week. Aquilo did not understand what this meant, and asked if he would return soon. Aquilo asked whether the emperor intended to oppose the choice of the sacred maiden himself. Suddenly, the servant who was standing near the emperor laughed, and the emperor asked what was wrong. The man replied that there was nothing and fell silent. Aquilo did not understand why he was silent and what happened to that sacred maiden. He was very angry. Suddenly, someone came to the emperor, and he told Aquilo that they would talk later. The maid greeted the emperor and said that the venerable sacred virgin had come to him and wanted to see him. Priscilla ran up to the man and hugged him, saying that he was her daddy. She told him that her grandfather said that she could go to him because he was now her new family. The emperor was confused and did not move. Priscilla noticed this. She thought that he was very cute, and that's why people became fans. The man asked what kind of daddy he was to her. The faces of everyone present were filled with shock. The emperor said that he had not yet accepted the girl as his daughter. His servant told him not to say that because her reverence was still a child, and there was no need to treat her like that. But Priscilla told him not to worry about her because there was no problem. And Priscilla again called the man daddy and said that she really recognizes him. Priscilla said that from now on he was her betrothed father and asked how he liked her and whether she was doing well. The man was in complete shock, and Priscilla added that there was a big secret. But the elders didn't seem to like it all that much because they said he wouldn't be a good father. But Priscilla said that she was so convincing that they backed down and said that she had something because she could stand up for him. The servant added that the emperor was very lucky with his daughter. The emperor jokingly asked Sir if he could not wait to die soon after such words. But the man said that there was no way and winked at the girl. Priscilla realized that Callion was still a reliable person. The emperor said that it was surprising that senile people were sometimes right, but he really was a bad father, and you couldn't argue with them on that. So she better go back. After he said this, they were shoved out of the room. Priscilla was very angry because this was not at all what she wanted. She did not understand anything because she thought that Melchiades liked her directness. She didn't understand why he so categorically refused her and how anyone could refuse her because she was simply a gift from heaven for him. Priscilla didn't understand why he refused, because if he accepted her, then he would have a weapon against the elders without lifting a finger. She will love her daddy and the elders will tolerate it because she is their sacred maiden. Priscilla denied that her favorite hero could be so stupid. And suddenly, her maid asked if it seemed to her that the emperor was actually just worried about her, because why would he refuse such a tempting offer? Priscilla asked why he should worry about her. The maid said that she did not know, but perhaps it was a sense of duty. After thinking a little, the maid added that perhaps he refused because he was not sure that he could raise a child and thought that he would not make a good enough family for his mistress. Priscilla realized that she had never even thought about this, and it was quite possible, but it was not at all like Melchiades. Priscilla thought about it and came to the conclusion that most likely he was simply disgusted by the idea that he might have a family because he hates family love and other similar things. She didn't understand how she could solve this problem, because if he continued to refuse, there was no way to force him. Priscilla suggested that she could hang on his leg like a half-smart one or just tell him honestly about everything. She wanted to help him and promised that she could help him with the knowledge of the future, but I thought that he would just want her to unhook and would never believe that it was true. Suddenly, someone knocked on the girl's room. She was informed that the pontiff was summoning her. The emperor was walking through the garden. He had a very bad headache, and he thought that he would feel better if he walked a little, but the headache did not go away. He realized that he needed to cool his head before all his emotions got out of his control, and suddenly he noticed that someone was calling for help. It was Priscilla. She was hanging on the edge of the balcony on a piece of cloth and asking for help. The man was surprised to see her and thought that the novice wanted to escape from the temple. Suddenly, Priscilla let go of her hands and began to fall. The emperor caught her in his arms and asked if she was alive. He lowered her to the ground and she thanked him. The man looked into her eyes and saw a lovely scarlet color. Priscilla pounced on him saying that he was her daddy and started hugging him. The man began to easily push the girl away from him and asked what kind of daddy he was to her. Priscilla asked him to wait a little, and she would come to him soon. The emperor recalled this and realized that she was not joking. And he thought that she was just crazy, but it all turned out that the sacred maiden was in search of her father. He never would have thought that the situation would take such a turn. The elders said that they had to immediately appoint a normal person as the father of the sacred maiden, and not a villain who has an incomprehensible reputation and who herself does not want to accept the girl. The choice of guardians for the sacred maiden was always a divine right, and rightly so. There have never been any cases of personal choice. This is unacceptable. One of the elders thought so, but suddenly one of the remaining ones hit the table with his fist and said that this was wrong and shouted about how someone like Emperor Melchiades could be chosen. Another elder asked how he dare deny the sacred maiden's choice. Priscilla sat and thought about what a mess they had made. Their disputes became more and more fierce. They shouted something about the ceremony and how nothing could be more important than the word of the maiden. Priscilla didn't understand what to do. She looked at the emperor and thought about how handsome he was, but decided to pull herself together because this was a very serious situation, and she needed to concentrate. One of the elders said that even if this was her will, he believed that they should not allow someone who had never followed God's will to become a guardian, and that until now, the Rahel Empire was opposed to the Holy Empire. There are two empires in the story, the Empire of Bios, Sacred Empire, and the empire led by Melchiades. One of the men said that not only would he raise a beautiful sacred girl in the wrong way, but he could also harm her. And what will they do then if this happens? Priscilla thought about what she was saying because it was because of them that Melchiades became an unbeliever. According to the plot, the Sacred Empire was involved in the death of Emperor Rahel, and it also openly opposed the establishment of Melchiad as ruler. And in the end, she didn't even send the high priest to the coronation, which ultimately ruined their relationship with the emperor. She didn't understand how these unscrupulous people dared to treat him like that. Despite the fact that Melchiades killed people, he was not a bad person. The elders found all this very difficult, but they could not ignore the implementation and they needed a compromise. They thought a good option would be to appoint the emperor's younger brother, Duke of Ravenhook, as guardian. Priscilla remembered who Ravenhook was. She thought that under no circumstances should this come true, and the elders really liked this idea. And this was a compromise because they believed that the Emperor and the Sacred Maiden would still be the only family. And they thought it was a very wise decision. Priscilla sat in a stupor. She did not want this person to be appointed as her guardian. It was the Duke of Ravenhook who was Priscilla's adoptive father in the original and ruined her whole life. Priscilla didn't want the story to take the same turn. She thought that there was no way she could change the plot of the novel and become the daughter of Melchiades. She could not allow this to happen and shouted for everyone to wait. But suddenly the Emperor said that he had listened to all the nonsense and had had enough. And he does not intend to tolerate this farce any longer, since he has already heard enough and said that they will continue to talk without him. Priscilla didn't understand whether he would really leave so easily, and she didn't want him to leave her and go away. The Emperor took the girl in his arms and said that she was his daughter. All the elders were in complete shock and opened their mouths, but he just turned and went outside with the girl. She was very happy. They walked together, and Priscilla shouted, "Daddy," after him. But suddenly she stopped and thought that something wrong had come over her. The Emperor had not gotten along well with the Templars for a long time, and assumed that the elders would behave this way. The man was also not happy with the news because he did not want to get involved with Bios. However, he didn't want to see the girl's upset face even more. Priscilla was very happy, and the man asked if she was having fun. She replied that very much. Priscilla said he looked so noble and was just like a real knight. He found it funny because he was not her father, much less an ignoble knight. He didn't understand why she believed in him so much because they barely knew each other. He just thought that all children are like this, and there is nothing to be surprised about. Priscilla told her dad not to be afraid because she swears she will try not to bother him too much. And she promised not to be hysterical, not to be capricious because he recognized her as his daughter, and she would do everything so that he would never regret it. The Emperor thought that she was so small but was already trying to live up to the expectation and did not understand why she was so afraid of being turned away. He tapped her on the head and said that he didn't need anything from her because all this shouldn't bother her. The man never thought he would become a father and told the girl to follow him. He thought that one child was not so bad, and Priscilla very happily ran after her dad. Priscilla's maid led the girl to the dormitory of the First Order of the Holy Knights. A knight greeted them. He asked what brought them there. It was the head of the order, Benjamin. The maid said that her reverence needed a personal knight who would accompany her to the Empire on the server. The man said that he could recommend, but Priscilla interrupted him and said that she wanted to see Sir Ludwig. The man was surprised, but he said that he would call him now. Holy Sword Ludwig was a rootless genius who without any support became a holy knight thanks to his strong convictions. According to the plot, he accidentally met Priscilla on one of the missions, after which he became a knight accompanying her. And this supreme knight also ended up sacrificing himself for his mistress. Priscilla thought that Ludwig protected Priscilla at the cost of his own life, so this time she will not allow his death. And suddenly, the Duke of Ravenhook saw the girl. Priscilla was surprised to see him, as she had not expected to meet him there, and realized that even in reality, he was vile. The girl really didn't want to see him, because in the novel, she even skipped scenes with him. She didn't want him to even come close to her. And when he reached out to the girl, the maid came to the defense of the Sacred Maiden. She told a man to observe the rules of etiquette when the Lady Saint stands in front of him. The man asked for forgiveness and said that he forgot to introduce himself. He greeted kneeling down. Priscilla didn't like it when he even spoke, let alone his phrases, and even asked those greeting her to avoid communicating with her, but his performance was very appropriate. The man looked at her and thought that if he greeted her, then he should be accepted and allowed to rise. Because he's been holding himself on his knees for quite some time now. He was very angry because he understood that Priscilla was doing this on purpose. The maid reminded the girl what she needed to say. Priscilla simply looked at her and waved that it was okay. And the maid said that he could get up and apologized because her reverence was embarrassed by people she didn't know, and that's why she behaved like that with him. The man apologized and said that he did not think that he would scare the Sacred Maiden, and all he wanted was to get to know each other, because very soon they would become one family. Priscilla was angry because she didn't understand what kind of family she was, and the man smiling said that he would be her uncle. Priscilla didn't want such an uncle, and she wanted to tell her so, but there was no point in swearing in front of everyone. Suddenly, the holy knight Ludwig came to them and introduced himself to the girl and the duke. Priscilla was very happy when she saw him, but the duke only said that he was lucky to meet the head of the holy order himself. The duke said that if the knight didn't mind, he would like to talk to him, and the man said that he would be honored, and Priscilla wondered what kind of business they had. The knight said that while they were talking, Priscilla could meet Ludwig. Priscilla hoped they weren't planning on scheming. The head of the holy order addressed the girl and greeted her. He asked if she was looking for him, and Priscilla said that she had a small favor to ask of him. The knight said that there was no need to say any requests because he would do whatever she said and was waiting for orders. Priscilla realized that this was a good chance, and she would not refuse. Priscilla said that she wants Ludwig to become her knight. The man knelt down and said that he would fulfill her will and become her knight, because this is a huge honor for him and he is ready to give his life for the girl. And Priscilla thought that she wanted, on the contrary, to save him and hoped that the opportunity to test his oath would not present itself. She wanted to do everything to protect him. Priscilla decided that this time Ludwig, who died for Priscilla, would live. The lady was very happy that now Knight Ludwig was her personal knight, and the girl was pleased with the thought that he would be saved. Priscilla was surprised that it had been quite crowded since the morning. This was most likely due to the upcoming move. Melchiades was in a hurry, so the departure was scheduled 2 months ahead of schedule, and all this time Priscilla was learning manners, talking with the pontiff and all that. Every day was intense because she constantly saw her favorite character and at the same time her dad. The lady asked Dad what he was eating, why he looked so beautiful, and said that he looked dazzling every day. And his parents must be from heaven, otherwise where did they get such an angel? Priscilla asked if she could call him Daddy, and the maid told the girl that this was a bad nickname. And Priscilla just frowned. She liked the nickname and thought it was quite cute. The man asked the girl what she was doing at such a time in this place, because according to the schedule, she had to have a prayer. Priscilla decided that he really loved her, because he knew her daily routine. This was very important for the little sacred maiden. Priscilla said that she had a request for him. The man asked which one, and she asked him to give her a name. The man was surprised and did not understand why she needed a name. When he asked, the maid said that before the sacred deed leaves the order, she will have to undergo a rite of promise to return to the god one day, and part of this rite is the naming. So he will be approached to give her a new name, since he will now become her father and official guardian. The man asked what her real name was, and the maid replied that the sacred maiden and Priscilla suddenly interrupted her, saying that she didn't really have a name. The man was surprised and did not understand what this meant. Everyone was surprised and looked at her strangely. Priscilla realized that the atmosphere was spoiled. Even her signature smile did not help solve the situation. But she couldn't do anything, and Priscilla really didn't have a name in the temple. Priscilla said she doesn't have a real name because she comes from the slums. She asked if he knew the slum of Cabrera. There people called the girl different names. Hey, you little one. No one gave her a name. Her parents abandoned Priscilla immediately after birth. She was raised by a girl working in a tavern and then sold for a bottle of expensive wine. Priscilla was a weak, nameless orphan who couldn't read and knew nothing about the world. The main character didn't even remember who she was before, but when she actually turned 6, her time had come. Priscilla performed a miracle and became a sacred virgin. All sacred maidens receive a gift from God when their strength awakens. She was given the memory of her past life and divine power, so Priscilla became a sacred maiden in the Bios Empire. After that, her name was either Your Reverence or Sacred Work, and it was impossible to obtain a new name before the adoption ritual. Priscilla felt very sorry for Priscilla. Now she has replaced the sacred maiden, and even while in someone else's body, she can use divine power. And she was wondering where Priscilla's soul had gone, and she also realized that she didn't know much about her new body and more. Luciana said that all information related to the birth of the sacred maiden is confidential, and since the mistress has revealed the secret of her origin, she entrusts her name to him. The man promised that he would come up with a name for her. The emperor sat in his room and recalled the moments where Priscilla said that he was the best, and that she is very glad that he will give you a name because she really wanted it. And with a smile, she thought what a prankster she was. He thought again about the fact that she had no name, and he could not even imagine that the sacred maiden would not have a name. since the first thing a person receives at birth is a name, and how could one not give such a basic thing to a child? This did not enter the man's head. It seemed to the emperor that her smile reflected a carefree life, but he was wrong. The man turned to Kalyan asking how the inspection of the temple was going. The servant said that the check was almost completed, and tomorrow everything would be ready. We would dispel their place. It seemed more than they thought, but everything would go smoothly. Suddenly, the emperor asked, "What about what they were looking for?" Kalyan said he hasn't been able to find anything yet. And the emperor said that this was a specific failure, and most likely it was transported to another place. He hoped so much that the relic was there, and he did not understand where it could be taken. Nothing came to his mind. The man asked what Valentino was doing. The servant said that he was courting the elders of the temple, and it seemed that he probably wanted to become the father of the sacred maiden. Rumors of a conspiracy with the elders turned out to be true, as the emperor expected. And the emperor ordered Kalyan to hand over to Aquillo so that he would intensify surveillance, since Valentino was slowly beginning to let out his claws. Melchiad didn't care what would happen to the empire, and to him, because before there was a desire to throw him a handout and see what would happen. But now everything has changed. He found an incentive, and it was his baby. The man swore that he would not give the girl to him and decided to come up with a new name for her. The emperor became very attached to the girl. He turned to Kalyan and said that he needed to go somewhere. Priscilla sat with her maid, thinking about what name Melchiades would come up with. She thought about what took him a long time to come up with, and just like that, 3 whole days passed. Priscilla started to get angry because he took so long to come up with a name. The maid tried to calm her down. Priscilla didn't understand why he still hadn't come up with anything, and began to make assumptions that he didn't want to give a name and was sitting there making up excuses. But the maid said that this was impossible. The lady shouted that the ceremony could not be postponed any further because she had to leave for the Northern Empire this week, and she urgently needed a name. The maid said that she should have simply entrusted the choice to the pontiff. Priscilla screamed that she didn't want to because the name was very important to her, and asked the maid if she had read Chun Tzu, which said that when he called her a flower, she became a flower for him. The maid did not understand anything at all. Priscilla again said that this was all taking a long time because she thought that he would give her a name the very next day. And she asked if Kalyan had said anything Luciana said. She asked him about the news, but he didn't bring it up. Priscilla began to think that it was possible that the man had simply forgotten. The girl said that this wouldn't do, and she said that she would go and ask where her name was because she was tired of sitting and waiting. She started to run and hit her head on the pontiff. The elders were standing next to him. The lady didn't understand what they were doing here. The man said that he wanted to ask the girl something, and she abruptly closed the door. She didn't understand why he came here and what he needed. They told the girl through the doors that she couldn't behave like that. Luciana said it was rude of her. Priscilla opened the doors and allowed them to enter. The elders and the pontiff came in and asked if she was not going to perform the ceremony. She pretended not to understand what they were saying when they asked about the name. And she said that of course she was going to hold the ceremony. They said that it was good that she decided so, and that means she had already decided on a name, since it was impossible without a name. There is an order of ceremony. If they miss the right day, they will have to start all over again. And the most favorable day was yesterday, and if today doesn't work out, then tomorrow is the last day. And if they don't meet the deadline, then the next time will be only in 3 months, and until that day she will remain here alone. Priscilla was in shock and did not understand how or why alone. She told herself that she couldn't live a day without her dad. She's also been alone in this place for 3 whole months, and she said that she doesn't agree. The pontiff told her to try to decide and tell him the name today. Priscilla started running to her dad, thinking that she didn't want to be alone. And I thought about what he might be doing that was taking so long to come up with a name for her. She called him and looked around her but did not see anyone. Priscilla ran to his servants and asked where her dad was. The servant said that if it is about Emperor Melchiades, then he is not there. Priscilla screamed and asked where he was, but they said that they didn't know either. The little girl didn't understand how this could happen and ran up to Kalyan to ask where her dad was. He said that the emperor was now in the library. Priscilla thanked Kalyan and ran very quickly to the library. The maid shouted at her not to run so fast because it was very dangerous. But Priscilla didn't hear anyone. She only needed her dad. When she ran to the library, she didn't understand where her dad was and why he came to the library. She didn't understand what he was doing there. If he wanted to read, then that's strange, because he's not a fan of literature. Priscilla was looking for him and suddenly noticed him. Priscilla noticed that he was sitting on the sofa asleep holding a book in his hands. She ran up to him and took his hand. It was wonderful. Since it was the first time she caught him sleeping, he was handsome even when he was sleeping. She looked at the books that stood next to him, and she wondered what kind of books they were. The girl began to read, and saw books about the sacred maiden and the first light that illuminated the world, and the history of the sacred Bios Empire. Priscilla realized that these were all most likely history books. She didn't understand why he was reading this, and suggested that perhaps he was collecting information for her name. Taking one book, she saw that a piece of paper had fallen to the floor on which Priscilla was written. The sacred maiden in the novel was named Priscilla, and she thought that he wanted to name the girl by the same name. She didn't know if it was a coincidence, and according to the plot, Melchiades had nothing to do with the choice of name for the heroine of the novel. Priscilla didn't understand how this was possible. She suggested that perhaps, contrary to the course of events, the names do not change, and the characters remain the same. She was very curious about it. She watched her dad sleep and thought he was really handsome and thought he was such a big eater. And suddenly the emperor woke up. Priscilla asked if he slept well. He asked if he was still sleeping, but Priscilla said that he was awake and she was next to him. The man came to his senses, and Priscilla said that she had urgent business with him. Priscilla came closer and asked if he had chosen her new name. He asked if that was all she came for, and Priscilla said that everything was serious because the pontiff came and demanded to decide on a name. If she doesn't cope by tomorrow, she will stay there for another 3 months and they won't let her go to him. The man didn't react. Priscilla asked if he could hear her. The man answered in a calm voice that he could hear everything perfectly well. Priscilla asked again if he had chosen a name for her. The man was silent and Priscilla stood waiting for an answer. The emperor replied that he had chosen Priscilla was very happy and asked what kind of name it was. The man told her to bring him a piece of paper. Priscilla ran after him. The emperor took a pen in his hand and began to write. Priscilla was very surprised because she saw that the piece of paper said Amelia and not Priscilla. She didn't understand why this happened. Dad asked the girl if she liked the name. At first he thought she didn't like it, but Priscilla said that she really liked it, and it was very beautiful, and asked if that was really her name now. The man said that it would become her name only if she didn't mind, and Priscilla thought about how she could be against it if she really liked the name her daddy chose for her. Priscilla thanked her dad, and suddenly Kalyan and the maid Luciana appeared from behind. They said it was very cool that the little lady liked her name. Kalyan said that the emperor very carefully chose a name for his daughter. Did not sleep at night, kept leafing through books in search of a name, and all in order to give her the best name. The man told him to shut his mouth, and Priscilla was delighted and asked if it was true. The servant said that this was of course true, and the emperor again became embarrassed and told him again not to say anything more. Priscilla looked at the piece of paper with her name on it, and thought that the name she got from her favorite character was very cool, and also not the same as the original heroine. She decided that this was her real name, and thanked her father again and asked if he would come to the ceremony with her tomorrow. The man said he wasn't sure but asked if he could come. Priscilla was surprised and said that of course he could, and even if the elders forbid him to come, she allows him to come since he is her daddy and cannot miss such an event. Priscilla asked him to come. The man replied that he would come. The ceremony began. The pontiff said that they are awaiting the return of God's child and they extol her name. Following the will of the Great Mother, they promise to return to Bios after they see the entire vast world of the Great Goddess, and they burned a piece of paper with her name on a blue fire. And suddenly, the girl saw 2 names in front of her. The name that Melchiades gave her and the name from the book. It was her decision to unite them because a new life awaits her with Melchiades, and she does not have to completely oust Priscilla from this world, because this is not just the name of some heroine in a novel. This is a memory of a sacred girl who died tragically due to the cruelty of others. And most likely, she is the only person who even knows about her existence, and she will remember her until the very end. This name was proof of her decision. The pontiff continued to say prayers, and ended it all with the word Amen, saying that she was leaving this place. When they were about to leave, the emperor asked the girl if she was sad to leave. Priscilla was happy because her dad was worried about her and replied that she was not at all since she was going with her dad. She said she was touched. The man was surprised and asked if she was touched by the fact that she was leaving. But Priscilla said that's not what she meant, and she's touched that Daddy is worried about her. The man told her not to talk nonsense. Callion approached them and said that everything was ready. The man told the girl that she was leaving this place and she would have to say goodbye to everyone. She didn't want to, but decided to do it only because Melchiades said so. Priscilla didn't know what about the others, but the pontiff deserved to say goodbye to him because he always cared about her. Priscilla approached the pontiff, and he asked if she knew why the sacred virgins should leave the order. She said that she knew why she was going, and the pontiff told her to see the world and return safe and sound. And he will always pray for her so that God's will be fulfilled for everyone. Priscilla thanked him for such words and told him not to get sick, hugging his grandfather. And Priscilla casually thanked the other elders. The emperor said that he had to go, and he and the girl went. It was difficult for the girl to believe that she was really parting with her disgusting sacred empire and wished them all the best. Priscilla ate delicious food and thought about how good she felt. The emperor asked if it tasted good to her, and Priscilla answered with a smile that it was very good, because she loves macarons very much, and she said that her dad is the best. They continued driving, but suddenly she said that she had one request for him. Priscilla said she wanted to go somewhere. The man asked where she should go, and Priscilla said that in fact, she had to pray for 3 more months before leaving her temple. But she left ahead of schedule, so she needs to stop by the cathedral and pray for the goddess to bless this trip. She said that it was not far, and you could stop by the cathedral, which is located on the border of their empires, the Cathedral of Saint Le. Priscilla definitely had to get there. She asked her father if he would go with her, looking at him with cat eyes. The emperor said that if it was on the way, they could stop by. Priscilla said she adored him and thanked him, hugging his arm. Priscilla thought that what she said was still nonsense, but all this was not simple. According to the story, it was in the Cathedral of Saint Le that Ludwig pulled out the sacred sword. What will change from events is that she wants to help Ludwig get the sword now. But if she tells Dad about this, he won't listen to her because he doesn't like paladins, and he might well buy into such a graphic lie. Suddenly, the man turned to the girl and asked why she adored him so much. Priscilla said it was simply because he was there. The emperor said that he did not understand this because he was not the nicest person and was much worse than she could imagine. So she doesn't need to be so confident in him, but Priscilla looked at him smiling, and so he asked again if she understood what he said. And Priscilla said with a smile that she realized that he was bad. Priscilla told him that truly bad people don't talk about themselves like that. Priscilla understood that naturally he was not a saint because he was still a villain, but for now he was an ordinary person. And she hoped that this time the fate of the villain could be avoided, although he had been bad since his first appearance in the novel. His future was not predetermined, and she could very well stop him from becoming a bad character. In this life, Priscilla wanted to live happily ever after with him. The man called the girl because he thought she had fallen asleep. He asked her if she was really sleeping, and did not understand how she could fall asleep at such a moment. But Priscilla really slept sweetly on his shoulder. In the story, Priscilla has never been to Saint Le cathedral, and this place was not particularly described in the novel, so the girl only knows that there is a sacred sword there. She decided to rely on her intuition. Suddenly, they were attacked by a pack of monsters. The companions told the gentleman to be careful and asked if he was safe. Priscilla was in shock, so she didn't know there might be monsters there. The emperor told the girl that she should not get out of the carriage under any circumstances. The knights fought for the safety of the sacred maiden so that not a single creature would get close to her. Priscilla didn't understand what was happening and where this flock of monsters came from, but she heard that there was an infection walking nearby, so no one came to those parts. Priscilla thought that perhaps this was all real because of her, because she left the temple earlier than expected. The baby saw monsters for the first time. They were not people, not animals, but they looked very creepy. And only now did she fully feel that she was in another world. The emperor looked very awesome when he fought the monsters, and Priscilla was fascinated by the sight of him. He looked so ungodly blessed like the paladins and without any charms, and he dealt with monsters very easily, and she sat and could not understand anything. It was very inconvenient for her because she could not help, and she thought that maybe she could do something after all, since she knew prayers and blessings. She wondered what to read to her and suddenly heard the words, "Away," and "Go away." Priscilla fell out of the carriage. She saw a terrible monster in front of her and realized that she was finished. He said something, but Priscilla didn't understand anything because suddenly her dad killed him, and he asked if Priscilla was okay. Priscilla threw herself into her dad's arms and said that she couldn't get out of her head the last thing the monster said. "Save." The man asked if Priscilla was okay, repeating many times, but she did not answer, and everything began to swim before her eyes. Priscilla woke up. Standing in front of her was a knight, and her maid, Luciana Priscilla, asked where she was, and was told that she was in the Cathedral of St. Lebalanon. The man and the maid began to calm the girl down and told her not to be afraid since they had completely figured it out, and everything was behind her, and the place where she was safe. Priscilla asked where her dad was, and they said that he was still protecting the forest from the monster and would probably return soon. Priscilla asked what happened to the cathedral and whether it was really safe there. Suddenly the priests came, and one of them said that it was very good that she was safe, and thanked the Lord for saving her from the worst. It was Aidan, the guardian of that cathedral. Priscilla asked if he was the head of that cathedral, but he said no, because a month ago their head died defending the cathedral. Monsters appeared around the cathedral about 3 months ago, and they tried to defend themselves, but now they were suddenly left without provisions. A difficult fate befell them, and the head of the order did not survive it, unfortunately. Now they are holding on only thanks to the protection of the sacred sword. They did not even hope that the sacred Aya Dea would honor them with its presence. They said that thanks to her, they were saved. Priscilla did not understand what to do, since she just wanted to take their sacred sword. But if she did this, it would be bad, because without him, they would be left completely unprotected. But she couldn't leave him there either. Priscilla decided that everything was as simple as shelling pears, and she needed to get him out without destroying anything so that he would remain intact and kill all the monsters right near the cathedral. Priscilla said she would like to see the sword. She was led to the door and told that this was the prayer room in which the coffin of the Holy Virgin was located and what she was looking for. It was the holy relic of Sophia, which is called the sacred sword. Priscilla saw the very one given by God to the third Holy Virgin and the first paladin of Sophia. It was located next to her coffin and stood motionless, waiting for a new owner. And even if the new owner dies, the world will again appear around this coffin. But Priscilla thought that something was wrong there, and it seemed that that sword should look more solid, because there wasn't even an aura emanating from what was standing there. She assumed that it was just like an ordinary piece of iron without any power, but she thought that maybe he should have been pulled out first. Priscilla turned to Ludwig and asked if he wanted to try to get him. He said that he dare not do such a thing, but Priscilla said that there was nothing wrong with it because she allowed him to try. Ludwig said that now he would carry out her order, and Priscilla jumped and told him to do it faster. Ludwig took a very long time to pull out his sword, and Priscilla didn't understand what was wrong. He couldn't pull it out. Priscilla said that this was impossible and let him pull harder. Ludwig apologized and said that he didn't know why, but he couldn't do it. Priscilla didn't understand why or what was happening at all, because this couldn't possibly be happening. Priscilla didn't understand why she couldn't pull out the sword. This shouldn't have happened. Ludwig was the true owner of the sword, and Priscilla feared that perhaps she had missed something. Ludwig asked the girl how she was feeling, and suddenly Priscilla told Ludwig and Luciana that she wanted to be alone. In fact, Priscilla was wondering what she might have missed. After all, in the novel, Ludwig was definitely the owner of the sword, but only when he appeared the sword was already with him, and how the sword ended up in the knight's possession. Priscilla did not know, although she was no longer interested in finding out such details when she read the novel, and the problem was that all her attention was focused on Melchiades. However, for Ludwig's sake, she will have to take the sword with her. Priscilla began talking to the Holy Sword and asking him questions about what she should do and how to obtain it. And suddenly she heard a little laughter and began to turn around, not understanding who it was and where this laughter was coming from. Suddenly, a woman with blue hair appeared in front of the girl, and Priscilla realized that it was a ghost. But the woman who appeared said that she was not a ghost at all, but the owner of that sword. Priscilla thought it was a joke, but the woman denied it. Priscilla did not understand how the sacred maiden remained there as a ghost, because, as she thought, they did not return to the goddess after death. The woman said that Priscilla was quite smart, and she asked if she stopped Ludwig from taking the sword. Hearing Ludwig's name, the woman was surprised, and Priscilla said that the sword belonged to the paladin Ludwig. The woman asked why she was so sure of this, and why she considered him the master of the moonlight. Priscilla said it was just her opinion, and the woman asked if it was because she knew the future. Priscilla asked how the woman knew this, but she said that it was a secret, and that the only person in the world who knew the future was her. And she asked what Priscilla was going to do. Priscilla replied that she doesn't have any big plans yet, but she thinks she has to do something to get what she wants. The woman asked what she wanted, and Priscilla said that she wanted to see Melchiades happy, and also wished him happiness and peace in his soul. Priscilla imagined how Melchiades would cry with happiness. The woman said that a strong desire can change the world, especially if it is the will of a sacred maiden. Priscilla now understood how the woman became the first paladin, and they continued their conversation. But suddenly, everything around became dark, and Priscilla asked where Sophia was. She noticed that something was shining bright blue. Priscilla didn't understand what kind of light it was, and suddenly it flew into her hands. She started seeing her father fighting monsters and started calling out to him. But suddenly, everything became very bright, and Priscilla was already sitting near the tomb with a sword in her hands. She did not understand what had just happened and saw in her hands the sword of moonlight, which belonged to the sacred maiden Sophia. Priscilla didn't understand how this happened, because Ludwig was supposed to pull the sword, but she decided that now was not the time to look into it. Priscilla walked up to Ludwig and shouted that she saw her dad was in trouble. Ludwig and the maid were very surprised that Priscilla was holding a sword in her hands. The emperor fought the monsters and wondered if his daughter Amelia had come to her senses. Because anyone who sees a monster for the first time gets scared or falls into a stupor. And why doesn't that little girl who was trembling with fear go out of his head? The man realized that most likely he really took her for his own daughter. It wasn't like him. Kalyan approached the emperor and told him that the monsters were escaping and asked if he should follow them. The emperor ordered the destruction of every single one because he was very furious over what happened to his daughter. They were following the monsters on horseback, and Kalyan decided to ask if they should look into the village that was visible ahead. The man saw the village and realized that it seemed that the monsters had already managed to destroy everything there and ordered to check if there were survivors. After they checked the village, they realized that there were no signs of life, and no one seemed to have survived. But Kalyan noticed something strange there. He said that if the monsters still attacked people, then they should have left corpses, but they didn't. The emperor shouted to Kalyan that it was a trap, and they were suddenly attacked by monsters. Kalyan told the emperor to flee from there, but suddenly a strange purple ring appeared under the emperor's feet, which emitted light and blinded the knights. They began to call the emperor, but he did not answer them. He realized that from the very beginning he was a target. His body did not listen to him. A voice addressed him and said that he was his son. The emperor did not understand what kind of madness this was. He had a very headache he called Kalyan, but he didn't understand what was happening. The emperor ordered everyone to leave there very quickly. Kalyan ordered everyone to go back and away from the emperor, and suddenly the knights noticed a large monster behind the emperor. The emperor began to run away from there, not understanding where the monsters came from because he had never seen such strange monsters. He understood that Kalyan and the knights could not cope with such monsters, so he had to deal with them himself. Melchiades realized that in order to win, he needed to aim straight at the core in the middle and hit only there. He took his sword and began to hit it, but noticed that the monster did not have a core. He didn't want to believe that he would die right there, although it wasn't that important, because no one would miss him for sure. But he remembered the girl, and I realized that no one would care except the little girl. The emperor realized that there was a person who cared about him, and this was his incentive to survive. Suddenly, the emperor saw that someone was killing the monster with a bright blue light. The man saw that the monster was dead and heard the words of his girl who was calling him, and at the side of the holy knight with a sword in his hands. Priscilla ran up to Dad, screaming to see if he was okay and if he was hurt. She screamed that she was afraid something terrible might happen and hugged her dad with tears in her eyes. He didn't understand what was happening. As soon as Priscilla touched him, the madness disappeared as if it had never existed. Kalyan ran up to them with the knights, and they were glad that everyone was safe. The emperor asked Amelia why she came there, But Priscilla said she was worried because he had gone to a dangerous place without her. And she said that he was an adult and didn't understand what he was thinking. And didn't he really know that he couldn't go to such places alone? She said that he needed to be taught everything, and now she wouldn't let him go anywhere alone. Priscilla shouted that Dad was a fool and that he should no longer go to such dangerous places. She asked him to promise her that he would no longer walk on his own. The man was surprised and realized that Priscilla had just scolded him. And she wanted him to answer her whether he understood or not, and whether he promised her that this would not happen again. He said that he understood her, and they agreed. When Priscilla took the sword in her hands, a vision came to her of a maddened Melchiades cutting down everyone indiscriminately, both people and monsters. On the way there, she realized that it was there that he received his scar described in the novel. But Melchiades, who stood in front of her, was safe and sound, and she realized that she was able to save him. He certainly lost his distinctive feature, but remained perfectly beautiful. Priscilla praised herself that she had done well and was able to save him. The temple keeper told the girl that he had sent a letter to her temple and thought he would receive a response within a week. And Priscilla asked if it was true that it was the magic of sending letters, and said that it was quite convenient. The man said it looked easy, but in reality it requires a considerable expenditure of divine power, and his strength is not enough. Therefore, he decided to teach her this method because she has no problems with the amount of divine power, and this may be useful to her in the future when she learns to write. Priscilla said that she suddenly became interested in asking him if monsters could talk. The man was surprised and asked why they should have spoken. He said that he did not know about such a thing, and to be honest, this was the first time he had heard of such a thing. The priest said that monsters are creatures made of hatred, so they are unreasonable and cannot speak. Priscilla thanked him for his answer, and she wondered what kind of voice it was when the monster attacked her, and why it was begging for salvation. She thought she didn't imagine it, but this was not the case in the novel, and Priscilla herself did not have such an ability. Suddenly, Luciana approached them and said that Emperor Melchiades had woken up, and asked if Priscilla would like to visit him. She smiled and said that of course she would be happy to go and see him. Amelia opened the door and asked if she could come in. The emperor called her to his bed. They sat together. Priscilla smiled, and the man also rejoiced, looking at her beautiful scarlet eyes, which sparkled at the sight of her father. Priscilla asked if her dad was okay and if he was definitely in any pain. He said it hurt and showed where. Priscilla was shocked and asked how he managed to make his wrist hurt, and she asked to let him look and said that she would cure him. Priscilla looked and saw that everything seemed fine, but she thought that a bone might be hit. I decided to use a prayer of healing as it should help in such a situation. Priscilla began to pray, calling on the goddess for mercy, holding Dad by the wrist, and asked her to show her a miracle healing. Priscilla saw the light and said that everything worked out for her, and now she shouldn't hurt. But the man looked at her strangely, and Priscilla asked how it was that he was still in pain because she prayed as she was taught. She didn't understand what to do now. At first, she thought there was something wrong with prayer or with divine power. But the man laughed, and Priscilla didn't understand why he was laughing and looked at him in surprise. But she realized that probably nothing really hurt him, and he just decided to make fun of her. The man continued to laugh, and Priscilla shouted that this should not be joked about, but he said that he was not joking, and Priscilla threatened that she would not be fooled a second time. The man said that it was no joke, but he really was in pain. Priscilla thought that he must be talking about the same blood curse that he had suffered from all his life. Priscilla knew the cause of the pain, but there was nothing she could do about it. And suddenly, Priscilla put her hand to the emperor's forehead, and he asked what it was doing. She said that she had heard people say that for recovery there is nothing better than a mother's hands. She said that although she was not his mother, she decided to try. Priscilla put her hand up and said to wait. She hoped that something might work out for her, since she is a sacred maiden after all. A few minutes later, Dad told her that it really did help and that he was feeling better. He praised her and said that she had golden hands. Priscilla was very happy and could not believe that she was seeing such a happy face of Melchiades. She even thought it might be a dream, and the man suddenly asked Amelia if he really didn't scare her at all. But Priscilla firmly said that he did not scare her in any way, and in general he shouldn't scare her. He said that this was good, since he really shouldn't scare her, and she shouldn't be afraid of him. Suddenly Kay Alien came into the room and apologized for disturbing him. The emperor said that he hoped that he had an important enough reason to burst in like that and told him to lay it out. Callian said that Sir Viricto had come to him. Viricto bowed before the emperor and greeted him since they had not seen each other for a very long time. Priscilla was shocked because it was the first time she had seen the Ice Knight Viricto, and he was actually real. Melchiades had 4 distinguished knights in his service. Ice Knight Viricto was one of them. This man had not only abilities but also intelligence, and was also extremely devoted to the emperor. Priscilla thought that she had met Callian Viricto, and perhaps other knights would appear very soon. She was very interested to see them, and she was looking forward to this moment with joy. The emperor told the knight that he was late, but the knight asked for forgiveness and said that they had some minor problems along the way, because they discovered one destroyed village on the border and found one strange child there. They took him with them and calmed him down, just in case Priscilla was very surprised when she heard something about a baby from a destroyed village. It seemed something familiar to her. Priscilla began to remember and looked behind her to see the boy there. She realized that this was probably the main character of the novel. This was Priscilla's lover and murderer Melchiades. This was Kai Silvat, the only hero of the novel Eternal Winter. Priscilla did not expect to meet him so soon, and in appearance he was just as handsome as in the novel. But Priscilla thought that under no circumstances should she allow him to kill Dad, and she should try to make friends with him. She approached him and greeted him with a smile and asked his name. Priscilla said that she was Amelia and invited him to be friends. But the guy pushed the girl away and she fell. He told her to leave him and he didn't want to have friends. The guy just looked at her. Priscilla asked if he would like to help her up, because of him she fell, and in such a situation she should apologize and help her up. But the guy asked why he suddenly had to help her. Priscilla was shocked by his character. The girl had already forgotten that the main character Case had a complex character. His good-natured appearance and obstinate character made it clear that Case was right in front of her without any doubt. The main character did not understand how Priscilla fell in love with a guy with such a character. The emperor approached. He asked what was going on there and looked at the boy sternly, and Priscilla thought that this was very bad, because it was impossible for hostility to immediately arise between them, otherwise Melchiades could die. And Priscilla said that nothing like that happened, they just made up. The man was surprised that they were now getting to know each other by pushing each other, but Priscilla replied that everything was fine. The man picked up the girl and asked if she had hit herself, but Priscilla said everything was fine. The knight asked the emperor for forgiveness for the boy's behavior. The emperor asked Viricto if this young man who abandoned her daughter was the same boy they picked up in the village. Viricto said that he was the only survivor, and it seemed that the settlement was attacked by bandits. They thought that he was the only witness to what happened there. The boy asked for help, because the bandits took his little brother and they might kill him. He asked them to save his brother. Priscilla began to remember that episode, and remembered that it was connected with the kidnapping and murder of Kais's brother. When the hero was little, some strange people tried to kidnap him and attacked the village and ruined it, and also killed his brother, and this was only the beginning of the trials for Case. Priscilla wondered what she needed to do to prevent this misfortune and save Melchiades, and she decided that the best way out of the situation would be to help the boy, and asked her dad that she wanted to help him. The emperor asked why she wanted to help someone who was pushing her. Priscilla said that she is just a saint, and she is the sacred virgin of love and justice, and she cannot abandon someone who needs help in trouble, so she asks him to help him. Priscilla begged her dad to help him, and in her mind she was just begging him to say yes, because it was for his own good. And suddenly the man said that he would help and called Ludwig to him. Ludwig said that he believes that the sacred maiden will help make this world a better place, and he promised that he would make her will come true even at the cost of his life. Priscilla thanked Ludwig and said that he didn't need to waste his life on this, and let him keep it for himself. Callian said that he also supported Mrs. Amelia, and Priscilla told Dad that all that remained was his consent. She asked him to do as she asked, and was sure that he would go since he is the best and strongest of hers, and he will not refuse a child who is in trouble since she believes in him. The emperor said that he would help him. The man turned to the child and asked to show the direction in which his brother was being dragged. The guy showed them the way, and they hit the road. When they approached the lair, they were very surprised because they thought that this was where it would be and would be so huge. The emperor was interested in what the border guards were already doing. Viricto said it was only his fault. The emperor understood that probably no one was to blame. It was just that these lands were in the department of the Duke of Ravenhook, and he was probably involved in this. The emperor did not understand what he was up to. He turned to Callion and Varicto and said that they would go inside, while the paladin would remain outside with the children. Priscilla screamed that she would never stay outside and that she was coming too. She called Dad and said that he forgot that she should be there to help if he got into trouble, and was very angry that they didn't take her with him. The emperor told the girl that when he gets into trouble, then they will talk. Believe me, anyone was very surprised when he saw that the emperor smiled. He did not understand what had happened to him while he was away. Emperor Rahel, who always made decisions himself, smiled because of the young maiden's words. Varicto thought that everything that happens in the world is very rare. The emperor ordered everyone to go forward. Priscilla was angry that he told her to wait outside until he was in trouble. She couldn't just sit and wait, because she was worried. She hoped that the boy who had been brought from the village was not going to just sit quietly and wait. She called him, and he asked with a frown what she wanted from him. Priscilla suggested that he follow them, and since he wants to save his brother, they should follow them. Kay Salvador was the main character of that novel, and due to the fact that he experienced many different adversities in his childhood, he grew up to be a closed and taciturn, arrogant guy. But as often happens in novels, everything changes as soon as he meets the main character, thanks to whom he changes for the better. Priscilla invited him to go with them, and the guy told her to leave him alone. She didn't understand why he was so against it, and he looked like a fake hero in a novel. The boy said that he didn't need her, and he could handle it himself. Priscilla shouted that she would go too, but the guy went on his own, and Priscilla jokingly said that he was going in the wrong direction. The guy didn't believe it, but Priscilla thought that everything would be fine, because Melchiad also went there and nothing should happen to him. Priscilla decided that she would do things her way. She called Ludwig and said that they were going there, pointing to the doors. She asked with a smile if he would trust her. The boy walked along the corridor and saw only the corpses of robbers. He thought that Ravenhook had tried it, and he was probably strong enough that it would be difficult to defeat him. But he threw these thoughts aside and thought that Harville could still be saved. He found his brother, and he asked him to leave quickly because at least he must be saved. But the boy said that he would definitely return for Harville. He apologized for not being able to rescue him, and he said that he would bring someone who could help him and asked him to just wait since he would not leave him. But no one wanted to help him except one person. He began to remember the girl who with a smile asked him to help him save his brother. He didn't understand why she was so strange, and like she was all so kind and probably didn't even know the difficulties of life. He realized that he was thinking about the wrong thing, and he needed to save Harville quickly. Priscilla and the knight walked along a long tunnel, and the knight said that perhaps he was thinking sinfully. But the sacred maiden is very sweet, and when they first met, she was not nearly so cheerful. After those horrors, a large-scale cleansing was carried out in Cabrera, and the only survivor cleansed by the divine powers of the earth turned out to be the little tear-stained Priscilla. They called her a sacred maiden, but in his eyes, she was just an ordinary child. Now, Priscilla looked more mature and enlightened, but to him she was still a child. He said it was dark there and asked the girl to be careful. Priscilla smiled back at him, and he thought that he wanted to protect her from all the dangers of the world. Because she is very nice, and even more so she recognized him and even gave him the sacred sword. Not only he, but any paladin can dream of such an honor. Ludwig was glad that he received the gift before Emperor Melchiades. The knight did not spare his life to protect the girl. He was ready to do anything for this little girl. Suddenly, she said that they had already arrived, and everyone saw the dungeon. Priscilla considered herself a genius because her dad entered through the head passage. And all the guards are most likely still there, and therefore no one will stop them from examining the dungeon. She asked them all to go inside. The knight told her to be careful, and said that he would go first. When the holy knight went inside, he was horrified because he saw many people in cages, and realized that there were probably still living people. He asked everyone who was alive to respond. Priscilla realized that this was not just a den of robbers, but this place was intended to transform people into monsters. Meanwhile, the knight ordered the release of everyone who was alive. It was the laboratory of a mad magician. Priscilla recalled that in the novel, Kais's younger brother died in that exact place, and he probably had to be somewhere in that dungeon. While the knights were freeing the people, Priscilla did not understand why she did not see her younger brother, and thought that it might be that they were already too late. She decided to calm down, since they had not yet checked everything, and called Ludwig to her. Priscilla recalled that there was supposed to be a secret chamber in that dungeon. She started searching and suddenly found the place where this chamber opens, and as she thought Harville should be there, Priscilla told Ludwig to follow her, and suddenly the knight shouted for Priscilla to freeze and not move, because there was a huge monster behind her. The holy knight began to kill the monster protecting the girl. When he killed him, he asked in a panic if Priscilla was okay. Priscilla thanked him and said everything was fine, but she was very scared. She thought about it and realized that if there was a monster there, then those who were inside were dead. She realized that she had already made a mistake and assumed that Harville was probably already dead too. But suddenly, they heard a call for help. Priscilla told Ludwig to help. They saw a boy who was being attacked by a monster. Ludwig dealt with him, and Priscilla ran up to him and asked if he was okay. The boy said he was fine, and Priscilla knew she had found him. She was afraid that it would be difficult to recognize him, but in the end she was worried in vain because his facial features are exactly the same as Case's. The boy thought that he had died, and Priscilla was an angel. Priscilla said that she was kind of an angel since she came to save him. She will be his guardian angel who will help him. The priest asked if he was injured and asked to examine him. She noticed that his hand was poisoned by a nasty monster. If the poison spreads throughout his body, he himself will turn into a monster. If this happens, Harville, as it was in the description of the novel, will die in the arms of his brother who returned for him. But it was already too late. Priscilla decided that she would never allow this to happen, and she realized that she could not hesitate. She needs to read a prayer of cleansing and healing from filth. She learned this precisely for such a case. Taking his hand, she prayed that it would work. But there was not the slightest sign of healing, and Priscilla did not understand how this could be. She admitted that perhaps her divine powers were not enough, and asked Ludwig to help. Nothing worked, and Priscilla became sad because she decided that everything was because of her, and everything was because she was not a real sacred maiden and could not work miracles. The main character wanted Priscilla to appear there in that place, and not the pathetic one. She was sure that Priscilla could save him. But Priscilla decided that she couldn't give up because Harville shouldn't die just because of what was written in the novel. Priscilla didn't want him to die just for the sake of the tragic image of the main character. The little boy who was only 5 years old was dying right before her eyes. Priscilla decided to create her own plot. Priscilla tried very hard, and suddenly she remembered that very magic of rebirth. Revival magic is a higher-level magic that cannot be compared to healing or purification, and it requires divine power of a completely different level of power. Even the sacred Priscilla managed to use it only once in the entire novel. She didn't know if she could do it, but she decided to try because until she tried, she wouldn't know if she could do it. She tried her best and thought that since she was now a sacred maiden, she could handle anything. Peace and purity of thoughts were important for prayer. Priscilla tried to calm down and began her prayer, asking for the goddess to hear her and protect the precious life she created, asking her to breathe life back into his body. Suddenly, Sophia appeared next to the girl and told her to pray sincerely, and then that boy would survive because the goddess would certainly listen to her prayer. Suddenly, a very strong light appeared. Even the emperor noticed it and did not understand where this light came from. Suddenly, all the monsters that stood in the path of the light beam disappeared as if they had never existed. Kalyan said that there was something below and ordered everyone to follow the emperor and go to the source of light. The emperor came to the source of light and saw the boy and Amelia there. A very bright aura emanated from her. Priscilla saw her dad smiled and fainted in her father's arms. Ludwig ran up and asked if she was okay. The emperor said that Amelia had become exhausted from wasting divine energy. The emperor looked around and saw that everything touched by the light had been completely purified. He realized that it seemed like it was all the power of the sacred maiden. It was difficult for him to believe that his child could create such a stream of light because she was so small. The emperor turned to Kalyan and told him to hand Achillo over to register the new princess of the empire. The man stood with his exhausted girl in his arms, very worried about her. Kalyan told the emperor that the entire region had been cleansed with the help of divine power. The surrounding area was cleared for quite some time, but only the priests from the temple can say exactly which one. The emperor asked Kalyan if he had ever seen divine power. Kalyan said that he had never seen it, and the emperor said that he too was surprised, and it was extraordinary power. In this light, power was not mentioned even in ancient manuscripts, and even taking into account the special talent of the sacred maidens, their powers were hardly different from the powers of the high priest. But what he saw that day was much purer and more powerful than any priest. The emperor wanted to know all the details about the sacred maiden. Callian understood him and asked if he should convey this to Aquito. But the emperor said that there was no need to do this and that he should not tell anyone about what he saw then in prison. Callian agreed and promised that he would not tell anyone, but he did not know what to do with the corpses and traces of spells. The owner of the dungeon conducted experiments on turning people into monsters using black magic. The emperor thought about it and realized that it turned out that something terrible, a monster that attacked him, was also created in a similar way. He guessed who that dungeon belonged to, but said that let it all remain a secret. Callian was indignant because this was a great chance to pin down the Duke of Ravenhook and did not understand why the emperor was refusing, but it was possible. But he assumed that the emperor was simply worried about the consequences for the sacred maiden, and if so, then he understood his feelings perfectly. He swore that he would take this secret with him to the grave. The emperor was embarrassed because as soon as the conversation turned to Amelia, Callian immediately began to go into the wrong step. He made the emperor nervous, but suddenly someone knocked. It was Varicto who introduced himself and asked if he could come in. The emperor allowed and asked what happened. Varicto said that he came to report on the people they found in the cave. He began to tell that a total of 132 people were imprisoned in the dungeon, and among them there were no living ones, but thanks to a miracle caused by sacred deeds the wounded were healed. But those who managed to become monsters died. Varicto asked the emperor what he would do with those who survived. The survivors witnessed Amelia's miracle, and if the emperor wants to avoid consequences, then it would be right to get rid of them. But the emperor doubted his subconscious. Varicto suggested that he get rid of them himself. The emperor remembered the girl's words that she was a saint and a virgin of love and justice, and could not abandon those in need and trouble. And the emperor allowed them to live and ordered Varicto to take them to the hotel, and then he would deal with them himself. Varicto was shocked because if these events had happened before, the emperor would have ordered everyone killed without hesitation. He and Callian were touched because the emperor had changed a lot. The emperor ordered Varicto to go about his business if he reported everything he wanted. Leaving the room, Varicto met with one of the employees in the cathedral. The guy said that he came to convey that priest Aiden had finished treating the sacred maiden. The emperor stood up from such information, but the guy said that there was one but, and that despite the fact that she was healed, she had not woken up yet. Everything collapsed in the emperor's head. The priest tried to calm them down, saying that this was a temporary illness that arose after a great miracle, and that even for an adult, it would not have been easy. But here was little Priscilla. He said that such symptoms often appear when there is an excessive expenditure of strength, and unless, of course, there is internal damage, then she will wake up on her own as soon as her strength is restored. The emperor said that this meant nothing to him and demanded that he answer specifically when she would wake up. The priest said that this could not be assumed for sure. The emperor was furious, took the sword, and brought it closer to the priest's face. Callian told him not to kill him because he could not do it in the presence of the sacred maiden. But the emperor did not hear anyone, and asked the priest if he wanted to tell him that nothing could be done and everything was lost. The priest said in a trembling voice that this was not what he meant, and that his reserves of divine power were definitely not enough to replenish even a quarter of the amount that the maiden had spent. The emperor looked at him furiously, and the man said that in such cases you just need to wait. When the strength was restored naturally, he assured him that everything would be fine with her, but no one would give an exact time frame. The man put the sword back and ordered him to leave immediately. Callian asked whether he should deal with them, but the emperor said that nothing needed to be done, since he had already dealt with his anger and took it out on this priest. He approached the girl and realized that he had given her a name, but he never called her that, because as soon as their eyes met, Priscilla was always the first to immediately go to him, shouting that she saw her daddy. The emperor turned to Callian and said that they needed to write a letter to the Holy Empire. Callian did not understand why he should write to them, and the emperor said that the sacred maiden Amelia performed a miracle and saved 132 lives. But she lost consciousness and asked him to tell them to send a healer. Callian asked if he was sure that everything needed to be conveyed the way he said, because if they know that experiments on people were carried out on the territory of the Northern Empire, it is unknown how the temple will react to this. And is it really ready to take such risks for the sake of the sacred maiden? It was clear from the emperor's face that he wanted this, and Kolyanu said that he would send the message right away. And he went to carry out the task, and the emperor approached the girl. The emperor was sitting with the girl. Previously, he had hoped so much that he would not have to ask for help from the Holy Empire, but he had to for the sake of his baby. He stroked the girl's cheek and asked her to come back to him as soon as possible, and in the girl's subconscious there was a story about how Priscilla escaped. She didn't understand whether she was seeing a dream or memories. Ludwig shouted at her that she needed to leave, since she must save herself and prove to everyone that she is not a witch and she just needs to return her divine power. Ludwig was very hurt and said that he didn't care and he would try to buy her time so that she would survive because she had to do it. And he asked her to promise him that she would do everything as he said. The girl cried because she understood that it was all because of her, and if it weren't for her, this would not have happened. She was ready to die there herself. The girl was very good-natured and could not allow death through her own fault. And Ludwig told her not to cry because it was not her fault. He said that if she manages to get out of there unharmed, then let her live only for herself, and they all sincerely wish for this. He proudly told her to go already, and he would stop them at the cost of his life because she had to get out of there. The girl ran and asked for forgiveness. Suddenly, Amelia opened her eyes and realized that it was Priscilla. She was scared and lonely, but now everything is fine. The family cried because of what Priscilla had to go through. She said that this would not happen again because they would not allow this to happen. Amelia saw her past. It doesn't feel like a dream at all. Everything seemed to happen to him. The girl was reborn in someone else's body. These could very well be Priscilla's memories. The main character wondered where she was. And how long has she been lying here? Suddenly, a maid came into the room, and Amelia immediately greeted her joyfully. Luciana was simply delighted and immediately rushed into her mistress's arms when she realized that she had woken up. She was so worried about her mistress, the girl said she was fine. Amelia said that nothing could be done to her because she is a sacred maiden, no matter how you look at it. The maid agreed with her because she looked quite cheerful. Amelia wondered what this place was. Luciana said that this is a castle in the lands of Jirajan, which is not far from the border of the empire. It seemed they had already left Lebalanon Cathedral while she was sleeping. From the window, she remembered Harville. She became very curious about what was wrong with him now, so she asked the maid about him in horror. Luciana said there was no need to get up just yet. Amelia said that we urgently need to make sure everything is okay with him. The future of him and his dad depends on this, and also the future of the main character. The maid said that he was in the west wing in the third room down the corridor. The lady understood her and immediately went to him. Luciana said that she needed peace because she still had not regained her strength. The emperor asked who would take the courage to explain to him how this happened. Recently, he was informed that his daughter had woken up. He comes, and the child in a weakened state has suddenly disappeared somewhere. The man said that he was to blame because her likeness suddenly jumped up and ran away. They should have stopped her but didn't have time, so they asked the gentleman to have mercy. The emperor sees no point in showing mercy to those who are of no use. The men asked him to laugh at them and give them just one chance. Kallian asked His Highness what to do with them. The emperor ordered their replacement with more competent ones. But first he must find his daughter. He is very interested in where she could have disappeared to. Kallian said that Luciana told him what happened. He just came from her. Her reverends are in the West Wing now. The emperor was surprised when she heard about the Western Wing because the boy she saved in the dungeon was there. Melchiades immediately went somewhere. The knight asked where he was going, but he didn't hear anyone. The guy was very happy because his younger brother was alive. The magic of revival saved his life. It's a miracle. This would have been difficult for even the pontiff himself to achieve, but she simply went and saved him. Such is the power of the sacred maiden. He witnessed a real miracle. Now the guy understood that she was a real sacred maiden. He decided that he should thank her because she was the one who saved Harville. The guy decided to do this as soon as they saw each other again, and at that very moment, she entered the room. The guy was very surprised, and the girl rushed to his younger brother. Amelia tested his pulse and realized he was alive. She was very happy because it seemed that the magic of revival had really worked. It's such a relief she accidentally got caught and began to fall. The guy tried to help her but fell on her. She almost fell and figured she was just nervous. She noticed that up close he was very handsome. It's probably because he's the main character. Those violet eyes of his are like precious stones. A real handsome guy. Amelia wanted to tell him that he was really handsome and she would like to look at him in about 10 years. The guy didn't really understand what she was talking about, and the little girl said that he would grow up and definitely become. They were interrupted by her father, who took the baby in his arms. Amelia was very happy when she saw her father. After all, he is her most beloved pet, only now it seems to her that Melchiad is very dissatisfied with something. This guy irritates the emperor the most, and what infuriates him most is that his daughter is somehow too kind to him. Maybe he should get rid of it. Suddenly, Amelia asked her father if everything was okay. The girl said that she did not understand at all how one could be so beautiful because she had never seen anyone more beautiful among people. And this means that you are definitely an angel. The girl asked if her dad was always so handsome. She was carried away again. Suddenly, the girl grabbed her heart and started screaming. The emperor was very frightened. But Amelia asked him if he knew that his smile was dangerous. She said that the whole world should pray for his beauty. Meanwhile, Luciana turned to His Highness and said that her reverence had not yet fully recovered. So she thinks she should go back to bed for now. The emperor ordered his daughter to be taken to the room. Amelia told Daddy that they would see everything later and waved. She really wanted Harville to wake up faster. She told the maid that he should get better as soon as possible, so she asks her to look after him. Luciana understood her and said that she would personally look after him. The lady trusted her very much. Caius did not understand at all why she was so worried about others when she herself was in such a state. The guy noticed that she was a little caught and told her to be careful. Amelia was surprised. The girl said that everything was fine because she just stumbled and that's all. And she said that she would come herself. Therefore, there is nothing to worry about. Well, suddenly she noticed that someone was picking her up. It was the father. The emperor said that he would take her as a comma, and the girl happily agreed. She truly adored her father. He told Melchiades that you shouldn't overexert yourself. The little girl completely agreed with him, and judging by the reaction of this little guy, he won't harm his baby. Therefore, the emperor decided that he should live. Vaga told her reverence to say A because she needs to take medicine. She should drink this and rest. If she needed anything, she should call Luciana. With her permission, the maid will leave her. Amelia was so scared. It seemed that Dad and Case were about to fight. It's good that she intervened in time. Their future with Dad could again be in doubt. The Emperor cannot quarrel with the main character, and it would be nice if there was just this. For some reason, her dad looks at her so strangely. Amelia had already begun to believe that he was angry with her, so she decided to ask if he was angry with her. The man was silent, and the girl did not understand at all what to do. The man finally hugged his daughter. Amelia was very glad that he was not angry. He refused to hug me, and he also tries not to squeeze too hard so as not to hurt her. Through such little things, she feels that he values her. In his arms, Amelia feels under reliable protection. It's like a dream. The girl was simply in complete shock because her father had just called her by name for the first time. The main character simply cannot believe that this is real. She really hoped that she was not sleeping at this time. The girl was so happy that she was ready to run around and sew up all the walls along the way. The Emperor was surprised that she liked it so much. Amelia said that of course it was. It was a name that was well chosen for her. If Melchiades had known that she would like it so much, he would have called her by name long ago. After all, it's not that difficult. The main character was very happy and hoped that her father would be too, and she is ready to do anything for this. Amelia decided to say that, by the way, she became interested in something. The father asked what exactly she wanted to find out about him. She didn't understand why the guards guarding her room had changed. She hoped he didn't kick them out because of her. Melchiades said that he simply gave them a day off. Amelia noted that then she would have to say hello as soon as they returned. The next day, her guards returned and greeted her, saying that they would never forget her mercy. Amelia didn't quite understand what was wrong with them. Still, the temple healers are different from ordinary ones. Amelia thought that thanks to the replenishment of divine powers, she was able to recover so quickly. This is all good, but for some reason the elder from Bios is still hanging around here. The man chuckled and said that for sure now everyone in their empire is chanting the feet of the sacred maiden. Amelia has only recently entered the world, and she has already saved so many innocents. This is undoubtedly God's work. He pours beautifully, but one of the 12 elders has so much free time to sit with her, or maybe he needs something from her. And he thinks that she won't guess. The order treated Priscilla as a debtor forever indebted for their work. They used her divine powers as a free healing elixir. The temple mainly lived on the money of wealthy parishioners who needed healing. Therefore, Priscilla was forced to spend even her vitality but to treat them. And if something didn't work out for her due to the constant waste of divine powers, all the stones, of course, flew towards Priscilla. The girl was shocked that they thought she would endure it too. Amelia told her maid that she felt sleepy. She seemed so tired that she is about to fall asleep. The man laughed and noticed that he was so clueless and told her likeness to rest. Amelia said goodbye to him, and the man said that he perhaps was leaving and leaving her to Luciana. Amelia asked Luciana what he wanted here. The fact is that the emperor requested healers from the Temple of the Sacred Empire. So the elder came with them to Amelia. The girl was completely shocked that this was her dad's request. After all, he has a bad relationship with the Holy Empire, but he still asked for a healer, and he did it for her. Amelia did not understand at all what to do. The maid didn't quite understand what was going on. The girl said that her daddy loves her so much. The main character simply couldn't stand it with how cute he was. So it will be she will live with him until the end of her days. Without her, Dad will definitely be lost. For some reason, Luciana felt a little sorry for the emperor. A few days later, Amelia tried to calm down, but she didn't understand at all when he would finally get out of here. The man said that he watched her and realized that she was not yet so good at controlling divine power. He told the baby to repeat after him and do it smoothly as if touching a newborn baby. Amelia has just regained her strength, and he is already forcing her to use it. The elder told the maid that she was doing everything wrong and asked if she was really serving the sacred maiden well. He finds fault with everything and tells everyone off. He clings to the knights and tells them that they do not have such positions. He also constantly asks tactless questions. He said that the spirit in the castle was not so pure and suggested returning to Bios to receive proper treatment. Amelia believed that he was the only evil spirit in the castle. He's just testing her patience. She asked her maid if he would get out of here. Luciana told her to choose an expression and added that he would be leaving soon. Amelia said that it's about time, otherwise a little more, and she won't stand it and will bury him right here. The maid told me to control myself. The girl didn't want to believe that all the elders of Bios behaved this way. Luciana said that not all, but for the most part, the girl was simply shocked by this. The girl was simply horrified that all 11 of them were like this. The Bios Empire is doomed. That's why it's falling apart. Amelia didn't understand at all what she should do. Probably wait until he left. After all, she will not be able to drive him into the neck with her own hands. My head is just pounding. Suddenly someone came. It was Ludwig, and he said that he got what she asked for. The girl told him, of course, to go to their room. He greeted her the first light of this world. He asked how her reverence was feeling. The little girl said she was fine. He felt so relieved because he was worried about her. If suddenly she's gone, then he will. Amelia doesn't know if it was because of that dream, but she began to see Ludwig in a new light. In Priscilla's memories, he was so determined and reliable. But for now, he looks more like a big puppy. He swore that this would not happen again because he would become stronger for her. He will train even more and will also serve her well. The little girl said that he served her well anyway. Amelia decided to ask Ludwig what about that item. The man handed it to her. The girl was very grateful and noticed that she was very easy and asked if he acted in secret from everyone. The knight confirmed this. As the lady said, he carried it all through the castle unnoticed. But in winter, I wonder what it is all about. The lady said that this was a sacred relic. The paladin was simply in shock. This is a stone from the depths of a mad magician's laboratory. With his help, he maintained a barrier that allowed him to secretly conduct experiments. The girl remembers that even the Duke of Ravenhook even dug up Talus's grave in order to get him. This is an important thing. It is better to take it yourself. After all, it might be useful to her. Paladin at her reverence's how she found out that she was there. At first, Amelia didn't hear, so she asked again. Then she said that she saw her in a dream. At such moments, the fact that she is a sacred maiden helps out so much. Ludwig noticed that she really was a saint. I found not only a sacred sword, but also a stone. Amelia asked Ludwig if he could leave the sword with her for now, because she would like to take a closer look at both relics. The man said that of course he could because it was, in fact, her sword. The sacred paladin handed it to the girl, and she was very grateful, and said that she would just look and immediately give it back. Ludwig said with a smile that he would wait outside, and she should call him as soon as she finishes. He will be waiting. She just knows that this stone contains an inorganic supply of mana, but she doesn't remember its name. In the novel, his name was simply Relic. Perhaps Sophia knows something. The girl thought about how to ask her about this. She decided to simply turn to her and asked if she could hear her. Amelia said she had a question. Suddenly, a maid burst into the room and remarked that it seemed she had better intervene while she still could. The little girl didn't understand at all what happened there and asked if it was urgent. The maid confirmed, and they left the room. She saw how the elder and Ludwig did not share something between themselves. This is suspicious, and she is very interested in what is going on here. Ludwig said that he had nothing to say in his defense. The elder himself knew about this, so he should be punished, because the elder does not understand at all how he could not keep track of the sacred maiden. Although she personally chose him out of everyone, he did not understand how such a mediocrity could protect a sacred cause. Amelia was shocked by what this old man had just said to Ludwig, so she came closer to them and asked what was going on here. The elder informed Yi that he was simply telling Sir Ludwig off surname, asked him why he was reprimanding him. The man said that because he did not perform his duties properly, if he had guarded her properly, she wouldn't have had to spend so much effort. Ludwig didn't notice all this. He can no longer trust her life to such a fool. He had to protect her even at the cost of his worthless life. The elder promised that, as soon as he returned to Bios, he would immediately answer for his negligence. The little girl said that he did everything he could for her at that moment. The man said that if this were so, then she would not be in this state now. He had to do everything to make sure she didn't get hurt in any way. But he told her reverence not to worry, because as soon as he returned to the Sacred Empire, he would send her his best knight, which is much better than that mediocrity, Ludwig. Now the girl understood what his real goal was. He deliberately picks on Ludwig in order to remove him, and instead imagine your man to watch over the saint. His dirty motives are so obvious. The man noticed that it seems that she agrees with him, so he asks her to just wait, and he will send her a worthy knight. Amelia apologized and said that Ludwig was completely fine with her. The man was in complete shock and did not understand in what sense she was saying this. The little girl said that she was sure that no matter who he sent, he would not be able to surpass Ludwig. The elder asked in horror what she was talking about. He assured the saint that there were a dime a dozen like him, and he would bring the best here. Amelia asked the elder if he could vouch for his words, and if he could swear on the name of the goddess. Even for priests with divine power, this is an extremely powerful oath. If they violate it, they will lose power, but most likely this elder will not accept this condition. Well, he said that he, Elder Maxon, pretends to be in the name of the goddess, that he will find a knight better than her Ludwig. Amelia said that was great, and he should bring her a better knight than the paladin who had the relic. Since the elder is so convinced that he is right, the man was simply horrified, and the little girl smiled sweetly at him. The little girl asked what was wrong with him, and asked if he had any doubts. The elder did not understand at all what all this meant, and how it happened. Amelia told him to bring him, because she also wants to see who is the best knight of the sacred sword. After which, the little girl asked what was wrong with his face, because it looked like he was already unsure about it. No wonder he has nothing to answer. Sacred work was the first of the paladins. You can immediately guess what the knight who wields her sacred sword will be like. Among ordinary paladins, he will have no equal. And even if the sacred sword chooses a knight of the lowest rank, he will instantly become the strongest of the paladins. The elder said that he had no words because he was simply sure that it was a fake, and she decided to prank him. The saint told the elder to watch his tongue because this is a real sacred sword. Amelia told Ludwig to show the sword, and the elder had to explain how it was possible not to recognize Sophia's sword being one of the elders. The elder said that this was simply impossible, and asked if it was really Sophia's sacred sword. Amelia confirmed this, and noted that that same sword had chosen a new owner, and at the same time she asked if the Temple of Libalanon had asked them for a new priest. It seems they sent a letter to the pontiff quite a long time ago. She asked if they were still waiting for an answer or if he didn't know. You decided that he really hadn't heard anything about it. By the way, Perhaps he really didn't hear, "There is not a good relationship between him and the pontiff, but I wouldn't hide it on purpose either." Anyway, the little girl is looking forward to him bringing that amazing night he mentioned to her. After all, he swore by the name of the goddess, so he will certainly bring him. The elder simply could not say anything. Amelia said that until then, Ludwig would remain next to her and asked him if everything was clear to him, after which the girl took Ludwig's hand and said that they were now leaving. Ludwig knelt before his mistress and asked to be allowed to give the sword back to her. After all, she is still his real owner. Amelia didn't understand at all what he was talking about. After all, he is her sacred sword. The baby said that she cannot own it because she is still a little weak, so she suggests to him that he do it. Ludwig said that his life belongs to her, so he will do as she wishes. He decided that for her sake, he had to become stronger. Amelia told Luciana that the problem was solved, so she asked how she felt about it. The maid remarked that she was gorgeous, and she noted that she would give her cookies as a reward because she deserved it. Amelia said that her maid is the best. Amelia was very grateful to Sophia for her help. The woman said that there was nothing to thank her for because she also did not like that elder. The girl noticed that it was Ludwig who should be the owner of the sword, so she turned to Sophia and said that she wanted to know something. She doesn't understand at all why Sophia is helping her. First, she showed how Dad could die. Then she helped with that prayer for Harville's salvation. The baby thought a lot but still didn't understand why she was doing this. Sophia asked if she was against it. The surname immediately began to say that she was very happy and even grateful. She just wanted to know the reason. And also the price of her help. After all, suddenly for the fact that she uses it, she then demands from her. Sophia said that firstly she really only helped her with prayer. She created the miracle itself alone. It was she who saw the future and saved the boy. The family was in complete shock. Each sacred maiden has her own mission. It was hers to save this baby. Sophia wanted to help her fulfill her mission. After all, at one time, she failed hers. Therefore, I decided that I should at least help her. To be honest, she is very happy about their meeting, and until now, no one has been able to see her. For a long time, Sophia was alone. Amelia supposed she must have been very lonely. The woman laughed and asked again, but she still said that it might be so. Amelia hugged the sword and promised that now they would talk a lot, share stories from life, and spend a lot of time together. Sophia noted that this was great, and now she understands why her sword chose her as its owner. Amelia asked in shock why she did this. Sophia told her to think about what that boy was created for, then she will understand. The main character did not understand at all what this could mean. She didn't understand at all how this related to the reason why the sword ultimately chose her. Amelia wondered what the sword was even for. She decided to ask Case what he thought for what. He immediately started making faces as if she had asked something stupid. Now at least he doesn't tell her to back off anymore. Previously, he looked down on her, but now he even collapsed next to her without the usual grumbling. This is real progress. Case said that this sword is for killing. Amelia asked what he was talking about. Polina turned away and then she understood. He answered her question. Now he also answers, maybe when he wants. Amelia threw herself into his arms and said that he had finally opened his heart to her, and she was very happy. Case said to leave him alone. Amelia thought it would be more difficult. This reaction gives her great hope for the future. Perhaps she will be able to get rid of all the dangerous situations in life and find happiness with Melchiades. Amelia said she would try. Case did not understand at all what she was talking about. The little girl noticed that about everything, and everything will be fine with him. Case kept telling her to let him go. Luciana informed her reverence that the examination was over. The guy immediately rushed to his younger brother. He makes a molt from the saint. She was shocked that he was really so disgusted by her hug. Suddenly it lit up and the baby was shocked with you that the ball was crying. She started asking him why he was doing this and asked him not to cry. She was shocked that the sword empathized with Case. Now it's clear what's going on. This is the reason. Case was not mistaken. I say that swords are created for killing, but they also have another purpose. This is protection. The sword was created to protect the people you love. The desire to protect Priscilla made Ludwig the master of the sword, and her desire to protect her dad made her the mistress of the sacred sword. Now everything is clear to her, and she is grateful to him for the hint, and she hopes for his help in the future. She thinks she can protect her father. The elder asked the man how her reverence lived there. He said that everything was fine with her, and she was recovering. Very soon she will fully recover. The elder noticed that it was very fast. She will go north as soon as she recovers. And then, so he decided to ask if it was possible to slow down this process a little. The man was in complete shock and did not understand why he should interfere with the healing. The elder told him not to ask because he must remember that the exam for promotion was coming soon, and he hoped that they understood each other. The man said that he understood him and everything would be done. The elders considered the saint a daring girl. Don't put your finger in your mouth. This was such a chance to remove Ludwig and install his own man. But then she stood up for her knight, and her look was not like the look of a child. It was similar to the look of that same Emperor Melchiades. Suddenly, he really loses his divine power. He was afraid to imagine how an oath in the name of the goddess could end. He had never heard of such precedents and their consequences for ministers, and this worries him. Once it comes to that, since it comes down to it, it would be better to get rid of Ludwig. The man was asked where he had been all this time. He said that he was being watched, and then it was easy for me to hide from prying eyes and ears, and only now he managed to get in touch with him. That man decided to ask if he had found what they were looking for. So far, he hasn't found anything. The castle's security system is more serious than he expected. They really need proof this is the only way to curb Emperor Rahel, and he can do whatever he wants, but he has to get them. The elder promised that this would be fulfilled, and there was something else he had to do. But when the elder heard, he didn't understand at all whether this was possible. This is such a way to bring back the sacred girl. But then the man discovered that it didn't matter how he did it. The elder agreed to this and said that he would make every effort to fulfill this. Luciana noticed that her lady was already recovering slowly but surely. Unlike Harville. That's right. He still hasn't come to you. The girl was upset about this. Luciana said that if you already care about him so much, he will probably start very soon. Suddenly someone called her. Callian ran into the room. He shouted to her reverence that trouble had happened to the emperor. Almost in tears, he begged for the little girl to stop His Highness. They quickly went after him. The little girl asked in horror what happened and what this situation was. The elder shouted at the emperor and asked to look somewhere when their precious sacred maiden was exhausted. It's Elder Maxon again. Amelia is already having some kind of déjà vu. Last time he got to the bottom of Ludwig, and now he got to the bottom of her dad. Dad won't stand on ceremony with him, and she needs to intervene as soon as possible. The elder continued to be indignant about something. Maxon said he thought so. After all, they are all the same non-believers, and he absolutely did not understand how such a person could even be appointed as her father. The elder knew what would happen after all, and he said that heaven would punish him because he has no forgiveness. He said that he was taking her reverence back to Bios. After all, the sacred maiden must choose a normal family. Now it's clear what it is. This is his real one, but he's some kind of immortal, so he can tell her dad all this right to his face. The emperor already had his hand on his sword. Callian told the saint that they urgently needed to do something, but the little girl said that there was no need because for now they would be watching. The little girl hoped that he would not do anything stupid. A conflict with the Holy Empire is now extremely disadvantageous for him. However, knowing Dad, it's better for her to intervene. She approached and turned to the elder, asking him if he was now against her father. Her reverence said that they were really to blame for her suffering, and he could not close his eyes to her condition. Judging by the length of rehabilitation she suffered greatly, Amelia noted that she understood his feelings. But she's okay in the end. The elder was in complete shock. Amelia said that he should understand because her dad also became a father for the first time, and people tend to make mistakes the first time. Amelia is already healthy, so she doesn't understand why she's fighting. The elder asked in horror what she was talking about. After all, being a guardian is a sacred matter. You are obligated to protect and train her. This man is clearly not up to the task. That's why they'll take her away now. Amelia said that her dad already does a lot for her. Everything in his power, and this one is definitely true. The elder told her reverence that she simply did not understand due to her young age. Amelia asked him if he really thought that she didn't understand everything because of her age. The man immediately began to say that he didn't mean it. It was just wrong. Amelia chose her dad herself. The girl asked the elder if he was questioning the will of the sacred maiden, and she asked whether she should regard this as doubts about her holiness. The man says that this is certainly not true, and did not understand how she could say this. Amelia noticed that this follows from his own words. The girl's decision is more important than the elder's decision. He asked what would happen if he became pontiff in the future. Therefore, he should be more careful with his words. The elder said that he did not want to, after which the girl turned to her maid. Amelia noticed that it seemed that the elder was overtired. He had better go back home and as soon as possible let him help him pack his things. If he stays here, she is afraid that a conflict will arise between the Bios Empire and Rihel. The emperor ordered Callian to escort their dear guest to the gate. You see, she said that he would go himself and asked not to touch him. The girl understood that this Cretan did not understand. He did not understand that the saint not only protected him from death, but also protected him from death just a little more, and he would have agreed. Amelia believed that the problem had already been solved. She looked at her father with a smile. Melchiad was surprised, then said that she was great and called her to him. Every time she looks at him, and how tenderly she smiles at him, it gives me such warm feelings. This is the first time in his life that a man experiences something like this. He really suits me as a father. Therefore, he does not quite understand why she chose him. Father thought about what she told the elder. She trusts him so much blindly and unconditionally. The father decided to ask Amelia why she chose him. The little girl said it was just because he was the daddy. That's why she chose him. This answer greatly surprised the emperor. After all, he believed that she on the contrary should have avoided him because it was him. Melchiades is not at all the one who can become a good father for her. The little girl asked her father if he remembered how they met for the first time. Melchiad said that he remembers that she was still hanging from the window onto the sheet. Amelia confirmed this with a smile. The girl fell, and then he caught her. That's how Amelia realized that it had to be him. And another reason is that she had nothing. She is an orphan and doesn't even know her real family. She just got lucky and became a sacred maiden. One day the pontiff appeared before her and declared her a saint, and then everyone else began to look at her with a blessing in their eyes. And only her dad looked at her like an ordinary girl. Therefore, she thought that only he could treat her normally. These are all the reasons why she chose him. The father promised that he would do everything to protect her from any dangers of this world. He gives his word. The emperor decided that he would not care until she became an adult and could stand firmly on her own 2 feet, even if he has to sacrifice his life. And when she grows up, he will let her go, so that his atrocities do not affect her in any way. The girl believed that she was in heaven, who said that he would protect her and promised to do so. When she heard these words stupidly, she got everything she wanted from life. This is an extremely happy life. Now you can sleep peacefully, Luciana told my lady that now was not the time to sleep. Amelia said that she was just very happy, and that's why she said that. The maid asked what happened that her mistress was so happy now. Amelia said she couldn't tell her that, because this is their secret with Daddy. Luciana understood what happened, so she did not insist. She said that the elder had recently left for his place, and he asked him to convey her wishes for a speedy recovery. The lady shuddered, and she asked why she even reminded him of him because she was in such a good mood. The maid asked if it was normal that she let go of the sacred healer, the wind he had not yet healed her. The little girl said everything was fine. Unlike the previous one he treated carelessly, Luciana didn't understand and added that you had another reason to worry. The elder insisted that Sir Ludwig accompany him, so her knight had to go. The little girl was shocked that he was going to mock her poor Ludwig again. You can expect everything from him. Thanks to him, Amelia realized that this world is like a troubled potato field. As soon as she managed to get the sprouts of Daddy's love to sprout, the first pest came out. To survive here, you need to clearly set your priorities. The primary goal is to stay alive. She does not want to live the miserable life that is destined for her in the novel. This is King number 1, number 2, 3, and even 4. The most important thing is her safety in life. Now she has a family and her dad loves her. It seems that the biggest crisis has been overcome. Her next goal is to make Dad happy, and for this, something needs to be done. Namely, to deal with the Sacred Empire. She doesn't understand at all how they dared to touch her dad. He is her favorite character, and she will not forgive them for him. But she cannot achieve this goal right now. Therefore, we will have to postpone it for now. To achieve your goal, you should start with a small task that you can now do. For example, earn a couple of tens of billions. She doesn't know what might happen in the future, so it's worth preparing for anything. And one more thing, she needs to charm the main character, so that he would be on his and his father's side. For the sake of their common peaceful future, Amelia will make sure he takes her side. The girl was ready to do anything to charm Case. At this time, the guy felt some kind of ominous feeling. The elder suggested that they take a little rest and continue on their way. The man turned to Ludwig. He ordered the knight to go on reconnaissance and check if there were any monsters in the area. The paladin asked if he should go alone. The elder said that he was obliged to protect them from all dangers, so he must go. The elder was confident that the mercenaries hiding in the forest would deal with Ludwig. I feel sorry for him, of course a little, but he has nowhere to go, and you are necessary for the sake of his plan. It is dangerous if there is a knight with a sacred sword near the sacred maiden. The proverbs did not realize his existence. We must deal with him. He decided that he would return to Bios without him, and if anyone asked, he would tell them that Ludwig had fallen in battle with a monster. Suddenly, he heard a sound and told the paladin that he had already told him to check everything well. But when he saw who it was, he started shouting that he should not come. Aquilo informed His Highness that he had checked on the elder as he had ordered, but could not find information about who sent him. However, the attack on Cheese Ludwig was precisely orchestrated by him. Melchiades directly asked whether the elder tried to kill the paladin. Aquilo confirmed this and added that there appears to be internal disagreement. The emperor ordered him to find out the details. Aquilo immediately sent more people. He also had a report on another issue. Refers to the instructions he gave him earlier about new types of monsters. He didn't find any special information about the magician's laboratory, and he thinks that for this he will have to turn to the magic tower in the north. The emperor liked the people from this magical tower. Therefore, he did not understand at all why he came to them. He asked him what he thought of licking what Urigen's ruler, Replius, had to do with it. But Aquilo wasn't particularly sure about the comma, and noticed that he looked like a lump and hoped that this time he wouldn't get away. Aquilo said he didn't like him, therefore he will shake it up, that is, he will conduct an investigation. The emperor told him that he should know when to stop. The man said that he had another question. Aquilo asked when he would return. The Duke of Ravenhook returns this week, although his master even left earlier. Then Aquilo asked if he could just come back quickly because he wants to see her as soon as possible. The emperor asked who exactly he wanted to see. Aquilo told him to guess for himself because naturally it was about his sweet daughter. They say the sacred maiden is very sweet, to be honest. Callian had already told him everything, how smart and pretty she was. That's why he wants to see her as soon as possible. The emperor did not listen to him and immediately turned off the magic ball because it had become too noisy. Melchiades asked Callian where Amelia was. The knight said that in the morning she went to visit Sir Ludwig. She seems worried about him. The saint is so caring, she is just a real saint and angel. First Aquilo, and now he behaves this way. The emperor's mood has soured. He doesn't even understand why all this chatter makes him so angry. They are all the same. Callian asked His Majesty where he was going. The man said that he was going to Amelia. Ludwig apologized because he is still not so inexperienced, and this is how it happened. Amelia said that Ludwig was very stupid and asked why he got hurt. The girl asked where it still hurt and asked to show him. With the help of magic, we managed to remove the poison. It was lucky that this type of poison could be purified. The saint really wanted to know what really happened there, so she asked the knight to tell her everything. That night, the elder ordered him to scout the area alone, so he went alone into the forest. And there he was, attacked by a group of unknown people. They knocked him out, but he managed to tear this one off. He showed this to her reverence. Amelia immediately realized that this was the coat of arms of the elders from Bios. The girl noticed that it seemed that the elder wanted to get rid of him. Understandably, he was afraid of losing his power because of the vows, and therefore tried to kill Ludwig. The little girl knew before that the clergy did not consider others to be people, but she did not think that she herself would face this. She almost lost Ludwig. Ludwig repented very much to her because he did not have enough strength. Amelia said that since he was so remorseful, he should get better quickly. And the girl also asked him to take the sacred ball, and from now on, always keep it with him. Ludwig said that until he became worthy of it, he could not take it. The saint ordered him to screw up the nonsense, but just took it. He was lucky and survived this time. But no one knows what will happen next time. The lady said they all need to get stronger. But if he ever meets an enemy that is too much for him, he should just run. And don't think about anything. After all, it is more important for the lady that he remains alive. Ludwig was ready to carry out this order and said that so that this would not happen again, he would become stronger. Amelia didn't think that the elder would even do this. She wasn't particularly upset by the news that he died due to a monster attack. Now, on the contrary, she thinks that he has business to do, but she is not sure whether he really died because of the monsters. Usually negative characters don't die so easily, but suddenly he did. Suddenly the little girl saw her dad. The Emperor came closer to her and asked his daughter how she was feeling. Amelia was delighted because her dad came to her because he was worried. As soon as the girl saw him, she immediately felt good. And then the little girl thought that perhaps it was her father who killed the elder. Amelia hoped it wasn't him because he couldn't do it, and the elder simply paid for his sins and that's all. The lady greeted Case and noted that he was beautiful today, and she looks forward to what will happen in 10 years. She asked if he had been sitting here since the morning and if he had breakfast. Amelia asked what he was doing here and noticed that the weather was beautiful today, so she suggested he take a walk. It's as if she's talking to the wall because he doesn't answer her. The girl has been coming here for days now and trying to talk, but he doesn't give up. At this rate, nothing will work out with him. Although she can understand him, Harville still hasn't woken up. It must be very difficult. Amelia asked her maid if the doctor and the priest had already been here since the morning Luciana reported that they stopped by. They said to monitor his condition. The little girl didn't understand how much longer they had to watch. Case has even stopped eating. He still sits next to his brother. Amelia is afraid that he will soon be put into a hospital bed himself if this continues. It won't work that way. Amelia grabbed Case's hand. You said that he should go eat already. After all, he hasn't eaten or slept for several days now. This could also make him go crazy. The girl promised that she would look after Harville, and she asked if he believed her. The girl said that she was even a little offended because she still saved his life. Amelia assured the guy that his condition was not Kai's fault. She will look after him while he goes on the train. And when his brother starts, his unhealthy appearance will only add to his troubles. Suddenly, the girl decided to say that he had such beautiful eyes, so she invited him to marry her when he grew up. After that, he immediately took his hand back and asked to let him go. Amelia was shocked because she was just joking. Suddenly, she noticed a slave mark on his chest. He started going somewhere and asked her to look after Harville. After all, he will be back soon. Amelia was very happy and told him that he could rely on her. Luciana turned to Mrs. I said that she was curious why she cared so much about these other people's children. Amelia replied that she didn't even know. Perhaps because they are similar to them. They, like the saint, are victims of the author's tragic plan. They are in the same boat. Now the maid understood her. Then she remembered that her mistress was also like them. Amelia realized that her maid somehow took it all wrong. The little girl told the maid not to think about it. She definitely wasn't talking about that. The maid said that there was nothing special about it. She said that her mistress need not make excuses because she understands everything Amelia knew that she understood, but she was doing it wrong and was making up something for herself. The maid felt very sorry for her mistress. Amelia realized that this could not be stopped, so she decided to just leave everything as it was. She decided to focus more on Harville. He looks so much like Kai's, but he looks a little softer than his brother, and his hair also turned white, and so the saint wondered if it was because of the miracle that she performed then. She mentally told Harville to wake up quickly because his brother was very worried about him. Suddenly light began to come from her hand. It seems like the saint accidentally used her power. The maid did not understand at all what it was. Amelia didn't want to believe that it worked like real prayer. After all this, the boy opened his eyes. He asked Amelia if she was an angel. The little girl immediately greeted him joyfully. Amelia asked him how he was, and the boy said with a smile that he was fine. Harville asked if she saved him. The girl said that it was true that his angel saved him. Amelia told the maid that she would go report this. When Kaish found out about this, he immediately rushed into the arms of his brother. The guy was very happy. It's such a relief. Now Kaisu, I will have to suffer in the book. He was in so much pain after his brother died. Every time she read about his torment, she became so sad. Although she still empathized only with Melchiad, Luciana informed her reverence that she had brought a doctor and a priest. The little girl approached her brothers. She asked Kaish to allow specialists to examine him because now everything would be fine. It won't take much time, after which the guy agreed and walked away. The kids themselves began to wonder what they were discussing there for so long. The baby woke up, which means everything is fine. This is too long, after all, something else is wrong. Their faces are not happy at all. The girl approached the doctor and asked if everything was okay with Harville. The doctor reported that he was physically healthy. But there's one problem. It is not yet entirely clear why this is so, but he is now dependent on divine power. To lead a normal life, he will have to undergo regular cleansing. Moreover, the usual prayers of priests do not suit him. All this time he tried to clean it, but it did not react. This means that only a prayer for a high-ranking priest will have an effect. The little girl asked what would happen to him if the cleansing was late. They reported that his body would sharply weaken, and if he could not cope, the boy could die. Things are bad. This is the other side of salvation. The girl thanked them for the inspection and said that they could go. Amelia can imagine what Case is thinking right now. He thinks that he will catch a top-ranking baitfish even if he has to kidnap him. There's nothing you can do about it. Amelia turned to Case and did not say that she would help him. Caius asked with displeasure what she could do. The little girl in shock asked if he knew who she was. The girl immediately called Luciana. The maid said that before him was her reverence, Amelia Priscilla Rexe Rahel Bios, a sacred maiden. He sighed heavily. Amelia understood that with his character, a request for help would not be forthcoming. He's too proud. However, it was he who saved Priscilla. Therefore, she decided that she would repay this debt to him. The girl told him not to worry about his brother because she would not leave him. The guy asked how long this would last. Amelia said until the end, Quais was suspicious of her and asked if she thought it was real. The girl didn't understand why not. She says her divine power will never dry up. Fuck, she's a sacred maiden. Case said that he did not need her handouts. The girl didn't understand at all what he was talking about because he needed to remember and told him to think about his brother. Besides, she is actually his guardian angel. This is what he and Harville decided. But if Caius doesn't want to be obliged to her so much, then this can be solved. He might just give back in the future too. This is a deal that will benefit both of them. Quais asked how exactly he would pay her. Amelia thought about it and said that he must prove his usefulness himself. She bets that he will reach his potential in the future. Then he will repay the debt by doing something useful for her. After which, the little girl asked what he thought about this and whether he agreed to a deal with her. The guy agreed and said that she would not regret it because he promised. Amelia was very happy and said that in that case, she would look forward to his triumph. Luciana noticed that her likeness was literally glowing. Amelia said that it was so because she was in a good mood. Naturally, it is good because now Caius is on her side. We must try to captivate him so that everything ends well. There's only one problem left. This is the mark on Case's body. Slavery is prohibited in Rahel, but the law applies only to citizens of the Empire. The law cannot protect slaves from other countries. Since he has a mark, it means he is a slave in Rahel. They are treated worse than livestock. It would be necessary to prevent this from getting rid of the mark. The mark on the guy's body is a special mark that the magician from the laboratory could stop. Only Max, who has much greater power than the one who marked him, can save Kais from this mark. Judging by the fact that Dad hasn't done anything to Kais yet, he doesn't know about this mark on his body. Well, it's only a matter of time, and it is unknown what he will do when the truth comes out. In this case, there is only one way out. Amelia must be the first to make the code and win. The girl turned to the maid and asked if she knew that their Knight Callian loved them. Knight Callian came to her likeness and asked why she called him. The little girl called him with a smile. The man was touched because she called him by name. Amelia handed something into his hands. Callian immediately asked what it was, but when I looked closer, the man immediately realized that it was candy. The little girl said that it was a bribe and then asked him if he loved her. The man confirmed this. The saint said that in this case he should help her. Callian did not understand at all what she meant. Amelia said that she was counting on Callian. The knight did not quite understand her. The little girl was happy because she had lured Callian to her side. The man felt as if he had been tricked. All that remains is to organize a precedent. And that's it. Callian needs to take her side in the presence of her dad. So Amelia thought about how she could handle the situation. Suddenly, the emperor entered the room and noticed that they seemed to be having quite a bit of fun. Melchiades reported that he was told that he had some urgent business, and he actually ran off to chat with his daughter. The emperor asked Callian whether this was his urgent matter. I was in complete shock and tried to explain myself. Melchiades asked if they often gather like this because they were from him. Callian cut everything off and begged him to listen to him. The man asked what he didn't know yet, and asked how he even dared to secretly go to his daughter. Amelia didn't understand at all what was wrong with him, because it looked like her dad was jealous now. because it seemed to him that she was now communicating closer with Callian than with him. He's so cute when he's jealous of her. So Amelia immediately ran into his arms. He immediately took her in his arms, and the baby began to smile. The Emperor greeted her and asked her how she was here, and if she was feeling well. Amelia reported that she was feeling much better. This is simply wonderful. Callian was also very happy, and said that it was so great that the sacred maiden had recovered. He tried to say something else, but the Emperor immediately cut him off. Amelia asked what he would have in a couple of days and if he had any plans. After 2 days they leave for Helzeros. Amelia was simply shocked and asked if it was really true. She was very happy that they were finally going to the capital. Then, it is better to raise the issue of cause here and now. Amelia turned to her father and said that she was curious about something. She said that they would go to the capital and asked what would happen to the people she saved. Callian said that a decision had not yet been made, but most likely they would release everyone except the slaves. This means that Dad is not going to let them go free. Surely he would have killed or hidden them earlier. She couldn't allow Case to become a servant. Amelia told her father that she was living with the messenger and asked if she was a good person in such a situation. She wanted him to play along with her. After all, she already gave him a bribe for this. Callian began to talk about how she was so young among them, and what she did was extremely generous. The girl really wanted her daddy to say that she was great and deserved praise. The Emperor said that she was a great fellow. The little girl said that in this case he should reward her. The Emperor agreed and asked what she wanted to receive. Melchiades believed that it would be gold, but the little girl said no. The Emperor asked what she would like then, and asked her to say what it was, and he would give it to her. The girl was waiting for these words and then asked him to give her these people, everyone she saved. Since Amelia saved their lives now, they save hers. The girl thought it was very fair and hoped that he would let her take them. The Emperor didn't even know what to say. Callian immediately ran up to them and said that this was possible. Of course she can, because she saved their lives. Of course she should take them for herself. Amelia was very happy and understood that it was not in vain that she gave him a bribe. Callian turned to His Highness and said that he had no plans for them anyway. If they can be useful to the museum, then it makes much more sense. Amelia really asked her father for permission, and in the end he agreed. The girl immediately rushed into his arms. Amelia said that she loved him more than anyone in this world, and then kissed him on the cheek. Callian and Luciana were in complete shock. Callian, we all said that her likeness kissed the Emperor. Amelia asked her father what happened to him, and then she realized that this was a great opportunity. Before Dad comes to his senses, she needs to act quickly. The little girl told him that she had one more request. The Emperor still hasn't had time to choke from that kiss. The guy asked if she was offering him a fight with her father. Amelia confirmed this and said that this was his unique chance, which she had difficulty achieving. When he feels the power of his father, he will change his attitude towards him, and most importantly, losing to a stronger opponent can become an incentive for his own growth. Amelia added that he himself said that she would not have to regret it, so he must prove that he can be useful. The little girl asked him to hold on for at least 30 seconds. Quace reported that he would last 10 minutes. Amelia was shocked and asked again. The guy said that he would beat him in 10 minutes. The girl thought that he had lost his mind. Declare that at the age of 9 he will defeat Melchiades himself. Cais, who was about to defeat the Emperor at the age of 9, the girl even thought about stopping him. The Emperor recognized his courage only because he decided to come here. Then he asked if he was ready. They decided to start. Cais resolutely began to attack but immediately fell when he hit the Emperor. Melchiades asked him if he will continue. Cais immediately stood up and began to attack again. The Emperor noticed that this was not bad, but the fact was that he was moving too slowly. Amelia was already starting to worry about him. Varicto noticed that he's very young, but this is amazing. Even just keeping an even breath in a duel with the Emperor is quite difficult, and he even manages to keep up with his attacks. The boy began to attack again, and the Emperor immediately repulsed him. No matter how many times he attacks, he continues to get up again and again tirelessly. Melchiades said it was time to finish. Amelia noticed a strange glow coming from her father's sword. She couldn't believe it. She hoped he wasn't going to use the aura against the little boy. This is too much. The guy was very scared. The Emperor stood in front of him and told him to remember this feeling. If he happens to feel it again, he will no longer survive. Still, an ordinary sword is no good. Amelia ran up to her father and said that he was the best and simply amazing. The little girl hoped that he was pleased. Her favorite character is so cool that it takes your breath away. Amelia approached the guy and asked how he was and gave him her hand, and he grabbed her. The little girl was surprised that he was so flexible. Amelia asked Caius if everything was okay with him. He seems a little out of sorts after the battle. Perhaps he needs a doctor. The guy thanked her. The little girl didn't understand at all why he was thanking her, and something reminded her that perhaps he was doing this because she arranged this fight. For some reason, he says thank you, although in fact he got off. When a person changes dramatically, they say he is born again. Amelia was told that the Emperor was calling her, and the baby immediately went to him. But suddenly, she felt a strange feeling. When she looked towards the guy and noticed a strange look on herself. She noticed the sparkle in his eyes when he looked at Dad. The family really wanted Kays and Melchiades to get along. But she did not intend to create an idol for Kaisa. It won't work that way. She took his hand and told him not to even think about being more fanatic about his father than her, because he belongs to her. The baby didn't understand at all what this look meant and believed that he didn't like something. A few days later, the Rahel Empire Aquilo was glad that the emperor was finally returning. Most of the nobles came to meet him. Duke Nukram left to hunt a monster in the western lands. Duke Vane has failed to show up again, although this is not the first time he has done so. As a result of the 4 great dukes, only Aquilo and he came today. Aquilo greeted Lord Ravenhook. He also greeted politely and thought that he was an underwater snake, and Aquilo considered him a sly fox. Aquilo noted that he had heard a lot about the return of Lord Ravenhook, and noted that they had not seen each other for a long time. In other words, he knows that he returned a long time ago, but only came out now. Ravenhook said that they really hadn't seen each other for a long time and asked him how he was here. After all, he himself looks after such a large palace, and it's probably very difficult for him. In other words, he didn't understand why he should come if he was here. Surely he likes to run the palace alone. Aquilo was grateful and was pleased that his efforts would be appreciated. The Duke noticed that there was not much trouble here. Of course he likes it. He must be silently jealous. By the way, Aquilo asked Ravenhook if he had met the new princess, but he pretended that he did not understand what we were talking about. The Duke was surprised that he did not know. This is what he said. The Emperor gave orders that were sacred to the cause of the princess. Ravenhook said that something is not so simple, and the law does not allow my own child to inherit the title of princess. Aquilo added that the Emperor was writing legally. Suddenly they began to greet His Imperial Majesty. Everyone welcomed His Highness home, and everyone said glory to the light of Rahel. The Emperor looked around and then told the girl that she could go out. Everyone was shocked when they heard the child's voice. She arrived in the same carriage with the Emperor. This is against the rules of the Imperial Palace. Amelia asked her dad to take her in his arms. All the people thought she didn't know what she was doing. Everyone thought that another soul would soon say goodbye to this light. It's a pity she's very young. But after her words, her father immediately took her in his arms. Everyone was simply horrified and understood that the end of the world was coming if their master behaved like this. It's completely unclear what's happening at all. The Emperor took this child in his arms. How is this even possible? Amelia saw that they were all perplexed. Surprisingly, now she sees how Dad has changed after meeting her. Melchiades even smiled. Amelia noticed that he was amazingly handsome and began to cuddle up to him. The father asked if she was okay, after which the baby began to say that it was very difficult for her to breathe. The Emperor immediately ordered to call the doctor immediately. Dad asked what was wrong with her and asked if she still hadn't recovered. The little girl said that's not the point. The maid had a bad feeling about it. The little girl said he should give it back. Melchiades did not understand at all what she was talking about and asked what he should return to her. As a result, Amelia said that he should give her heart because he stole it. And once again, she asked him to return her heart. Luciana knew it. The doctor understood that it seemed that he was not needed here. The Emperor turned to Callian. You ordered the heart to be found. Callian was immediately ready to carry out his order. The maid was in complete shock. The knight said that he would certainly find it and bring it to his master. Luciana did not understand at all what he was going to look for. Aquilo also didn't really understand what it had just happened. It looks like everything is shaping up in a very interesting way. The knight came to the saint. and asked if such a heart suited her. To be honest, the girl was afraid that they would bring her a real heart. But still, Dad and Callian turned out to be more resourceful. The Emperor asked if she liked it. Amelia told her father that she really likes it, and her dad is the best. The little girl was very happy when she looked at this decoration. The maid noticed that she should not have attachment to worldly things. She was so happy about the jewelry. Amelia said that this jewel was so lovely that it was impossible not to admire it, and she asked the maid if she knew that beauty would save the world. Luciana didn't even know about it. The little girl asked the maid why she sighs so often today. Luciana said she was just worried about her. Well, the little girl didn't quite understand why. Luciana said that she was afraid that she would meet a man who was normal only in appearance and fall in love. Amelia didn't understand at all why she had to do this. The maid said that some scoundrel with a beautiful appearance would deceive her, and she would suffer. The girl told her not to be afraid because this would not happen, because the only man who won her heart is her daddy. Luciana said that her words sounded even more unhealthy. Amelia said that there is nothing to be ashamed of her bright feelings, and vice versa, we should be proud of them. Personally, she is proud of them. Luciana completely stopped understanding her. For now, all that is clear is that she is not entirely normal. She really hoped that the genius would put the sacred maiden on the right path. Amelia asked if her maid was crying, and if her words touched her. Everyone was talking about how the Emperor returned. He says he never liked children, and because of this, the 13th prince is still in bad condition. It looks like he's completely infatuated with this girl. Perhaps it's because she's a sacred maiden. But suddenly they remembered how the Emperor treated the sacred empire. He could easily kill even the pontiff, and yet she is a sacred virgin. And not some fake who pretends, but a real sacred virgin who works miracles. Moreover, the first in the last 3,000 years. Or perhaps this is one of her miracles. No one can be sure of this. Perhaps the Emperor had finally fulfilled his destiny and thought about the future of the empire. Since he has a child, then maybe a wife is not far off. Achillo believes that the time is right for the future empress to appear. The Emperor did not understand what was happening at all and asked if they had all gone crazy en masse. He returned to Rahel only a week ago, and the series of unpleasant events still does not stop. He suddenly began to receive marriage proposals. Every night, girls who had come from nowhere were waiting in his bedroom. If this is the work of the aristocrats of the empire, then they will not be happy. Are they really that impatient to die? Achillo said that His Highness should not worry so much. It's just that everyone wants an empress in their family, so they are trying by all means to grab a place. The Emperor decided to ask Herzen if he had contributed to the appearance of these women in his bedchamber, in particular, his cousins. The Duke said that he did not see anything strange in this. You asked, and he knew how surprised he was to see how he got along with the sacred maiden. But he believed that he knew him inside out, and no one even suspected that he would turn out to be such a sweet and sensitive father. They all say that he has finally learned to love. The Emperor asked with displeasure what kind of nonsense this was. Achillo noted that he thinks so too, but the problem is that those around him believe this nonsense. A beast that has shown its weakness becomes prey to be drooled over? Now the Emperor already has many fans, and there will be even more. Melchiades ordered him to save him from such happiness. Achillo didn't understand why not enjoy the moment for that matter. Previously, he was not at all against night company, and the Emperor had fun to the fullest in the old days. Yes, it used to be like that. The man could not sleep at night then. Therefore, he needed at least some kind of distraction, but neither women nor the strongest alcohol could relieve him of his headache. The Emperor ordered that he stop it anyway before he himself killed everyone. Achillo hoped that an empress would finally appear in Rahel. He decided to add that he was wondering when he would introduce him to her reverence because he was waiting and couldn't wait. That brat Achillo is as usual, he still can't wait. What does he want from Amelia? Skip from immoral psycho to Amelia? The Emperor was already imagining such strange thoughts in his head that he himself was in shock. The Emperor told him to die. The Duke asked again. Melchiades said that when he dies, then he will present her to him. Achillo didn't understand how this was at all, because he also wants to meet the sacred maiden. The Emperor didn't even want to listen to him. Amelia didn't understand where all this was coming from. It's been a long time since he's been receiving a ton of gifts. Her wardrobe is already overflowing with beautiful outfits. And also shoes and hats, lots of accessories, even glasses that she doesn't wear. Therefore, the girl does not understand at all why she needs so much of everything. And most importantly, that one is a real tiara. She had only seen these on the internet. These diamonds are simply dazzling, and I wonder how much they can be sold for. The servant said that this tiara was worn by the princess of the dynasty. Amelia was in complete shock and asked again. The man noticed that she had not yet been officially awarded the title, but soon she would become the only princess of the Rihel Empire. Now the little girl was sure that it was her dad who brought this gift. That's right. She was so happy about the heart-shaped gemstone. That's probably why he also sent a tiara. The servant added that His Majesty also ordered a crown to be made for her. Amelia was shocked when she also heard about Corona. She of course likes beautiful things and jewelry, and is also pleased that her dad personally ordered a crown to be made for her. But this is all suspicious. She asked him to tell her that dad was not by chance one of those who compensate for the lack of attention with money. Looks like she got it right. The maid noticed that it was quite cold here. Amelia agreed with her because it was summer in Bios in the capital and in the Imperial castle. The cold is not felt as much because of the barrier. However, people who come from the southern lands do not tolerate even slight cold snaps. Although after Korea, where the sultry heat gives way to frost, such a temperature is a mere trifle. After this, the main character remembered that she was in another body. She was very annoyed that some kind of cold was bothering her so much. There is not even a minus in the yard. Luciana added that she immediately said that she should wear a raincoat today. Amelia said that she used to walk in this weather without this outerwear. The maid remembered this, but she is too valuable a person, so she must take care of herself and dress warmly. The little girl asked if she should do this because she was a sacred maiden. The maid said that this was not so at all. She's just very dear to Luciana. The baby was happy. Luciana said that was probably enough for today, so they should go back to the castle. Suddenly, the maid and mistress heard a strange scream, who was shocked that he wanted to make a girl who did not know the basics, a princess. The man said that he could not make this decision. This is the same as recognizing the transfer of power and puppetry of the Holy Empire. And the Duke of Ravenhook? He doesn't understand at all what the Emperor is thinking about. Luciana told her reverence not to listen. The little girl said everything was fine, and they themselves may think that he is bringing the sacred girl just at the moment when the monster is raging and it may be necessary to go into battle. He believes that this whole situation is extremely serious. The Emperor may have made some kind of deal with the Holy Empire. The man didn't quite understand what he meant, and he asked them why they were so surprised because everything simply pointed to this. For 3,000 years there were no sacred deeds. And then suddenly this girl appears. This is suspicious. The child that the emperor brought with him, they are not even sure of its holiness, honestly. Maybe this is an ordinary girl whom they themselves proclaimed a saint, but she really is a sacred maiden. Amelia didn't understand at all why they were talking about this so openly, perhaps on purpose, so that she could hear. The girl tried to stop her maid, but she said so that she would not restrain her, because she would inform in a kind way but with the language of force. The baby told Luciana that anger is a sin, to which the maid said that she was not angry at all. She was only outraged as a representative of the Holy Empire. Rather, even as a person who faithfully serves her reverence, Amelia said that was what anger meant. The little girl asked her maid not to do anything where she should show her only good deeds. Amelia said that everyone will get what they deserve. She will personally take care of it. The little girl came closer to them and apologized. She said that she'd just heard something interesting, and I asked them if they could talk. They began to ask why she was eavesdropping on other people's conversations, and asked if she had unusual manners. Amelia said that she didn't do it on purpose because she just has good hearing, so she heard it. She asked the maid if she heard it too, and Luciana confirmed this. The man was angry. Dark hair and a mole under the lower lip. Amelia knows who it is. She asked if his father had died at 30. The man did not understand at all how she knew about this. The girl added that since childhood, he had lived separately from his parents and fell from a tree, and he was raised by his grandmother. And his mother also died. The man did not understand at all where and how she knew all this. This man is Earl Douglas. He is a vassal of the Duke of Ravenhook, and a shameless man who wanted to take advantage of Priscilla in the novel. He used the fact that the girl was bullied by many and lacked love to marry a high-status sacred maiden. She deliberately brought up the topic of his lousy past to show how pathetic he is, and that they are not so different from Priscilla in this regard. In fact, this is exactly what he used as an argument. A character who knows no shame, who wanted to use the suffering of a young maiden for their own purposes. Amelia added that she can say with confidence that these are not all the trials that happened. It seems that being unhappy is his destiny. It's such a shame because he's still so young. The maid called her along. The man became very angry and he grabbed the girl's hand. Luciana immediately pushed him away and asked him how dare he and who gave him the right to touch the sacred maiden. The man was in complete shock because she had just hit him. He got very angry and asked if she knew who he was. Suddenly the emperor and the knight approached them, and the ruler asked what was happening here. Melchiades angrily asked what they were doing here with his daughter. The men immediately began to say that it was all the count and the eye, and he had insulted her reverence. Another man began to say that everything was exactly like that, and he grabbed her hand. They tried to stop him, but everything happened so quickly. The count asked the gentleman to listen to him because everything was wrong. He immediately fell to his knees and began to ask for forgiveness and say that he was only worried about him, and he didn't mean to insult her. The emperor asked how he was worried and what exactly bothered him. The man said that the fact is that this could be a trick of the Holy Empire. The emperor said that he could allow this. Well, how does that justify his action? The emperor hates those who sow confusion by knowingly spreading lies. The emperor ordered his knight to get rid of the vile tongue of this count. The man began to shout that he was right to me, but he asks and begs to be pardoned. Amelia was shocked and thought about whether they would really cut out his tongue. She, of course, doesn't like the count either, but this is too cruel. It's easy to manipulate, so it can come in handy too. Well, if you cut off his tongue, he will be useless, and this is unprofitable. So the little girl started running toward him. Amelia ran to her father, and he took her in his arms. The little girl said she was really fine. Then she asked if he was really going to cut out his tongue. My father asked me if she liked this punishment. The little girl thought it was too cruel. She suggested that he simply force him and copy off the sheet of repentance so that he would promise many, many times not to do this again. The emperor asked if she thought that one sheet would be enough. The counts noticed that her reverence was so naive and so kind. The little girl asked, "How about 3,000 sheets of repentance? The punishment seems harmless, but do not forget that there is no printer in this world. So after 3,000 sheets, his arms and back will hurt so much that he himself will want to die. Maybe he will even ask them to kill him." The emperor ordered that he must write 3,000 sheets of repentance and no less. They should not contain repetitions or large spaces. The man began to thank His Highness very much and said that he would not forget his mercy. Temperature decided to tell Enoch to keep his eyes on him. The little girl told her father that he was after all the one and only, and she was very grateful to him. The little girl thought that was the end of it, but after Earl Douglas wrote 3,000 notes, his father demoted him to Marquis. The reason was that he didn't believe a word of it after that day, even though the Duke of Ravenhook tried to challenge her title as princess. Melchiades did not even listen. The aristocrat supporting him also had to come to terms with it. There were even rumors in the palace that it was better not to mess with her, otherwise there would be trouble. They say that Melchiad will certainly ruin the lives of everyone who dares to touch her. Thus, from today on, Amelia Priscilla Rexae Rahel Bios is awarded the title of rightful Princess of Rahel. Luciana congratulated her mistress on her new status. Now she is a real princess. Amelia still couldn't believe it. The maid asked if she should now be called Your Highness. Well, the little girl said that she should continue to call her Reverend. She took it and remained a sacred virgin. Luciana agreed with her and added that she didn't think that Antifig would agree to all this. According to the rules after adoption, and before coming of age, she had to renounce her status as a sacred maiden of Bios. Amelia didn't think it would turn out like this either. The adoption process changed, so the father and the pontiff agreed to make changes. Even if she becomes a princess, she will not lose her status as a sacred maiden. This edit turned out to be much more suspicious to her, but thanks to it, she remained a sacred virgin, and she likes it. Suddenly, someone knocked and asked if he could come in. A woman came into the room and introduced herself as Margaret, who is the head maid. She provided her with maids of honor who will now serve her. They all greeted Her Highness. Luciana said that Her Highness was also very happy with them. The women thanked for the warm welcome. The emperor told her to tell her that her palace was not ready yet, so she would have to live in a separate palace for some time. And she asked if this would suit the princess. Amelia said she didn't mind that the women were very happy to serve Her Highness. At the moment she lives in a palace intended for guests from abroad. Her father said that from now on he was protecting her, so he did not allow the holy knights of Bios to be within the palace. Amelia doesn't really care which palace she lives in, but to be honest, this whole situation worries her a little. The girl asked the maid when they would return back to Bios. Luciana didn't even know what to answer. She didn't want to believe that they were using her status as a sacred cause to continue spying on her. This is true. That nasty old pawn, if she knew he was like that. Now it's clear why he added a special clause. He thinks he's got her. She told Louis that her likeness should be tolerated. He was worried about her here, so he took action. Amelia believed that this was not necessary because there was someone to worry about her. Luciana said that this was still a person from her homeland, and the little girl said that she had no homeland. She decided that her homeland today is Rahel. She wanted the maid's homeland to also be the Rahel Empire. The maid was shocked that this now concerns her too. Masha said that it was natural because they were one whole. The maid said that this is true because no matter what happens, she will always be on her side. The little girl was very happy and threw herself into the arms of the maid and said that it was very good that she had such a maid. When she hugs her like that, she remembers their first meeting. She is the only one who stayed with her after all her whims and hysterics. From the realization that she had become Priscilla from the novel, the baby kept saying that she wanted to go home and cried. Amelia said she shouldn't be here and missed her mom and dad. Only Luciana listened and felt sorry for her then. She was shocked that her mistress wanted to come back so badly. She jokingly asked if she now wanted to return, but Amelia said that she no longer had such a desire. It doesn't matter now. It would be a lie to say that she is not bored or sad at all, but she has already decided to live in this world. Amelia said that Lucy and Dad were here. The little girl asked if the maid knew that she loved her and asked her if she would stay with her for the rest of her life. Luciana confirmed this, and the baby once again rushed to her and hugged her, saying that she adored her. Luciana also loved her reverence very much. Amelia asked if the maid would find out something for her in that case. These are the very survivors who were saved by the sacred maiden paladin Claudie. He didn't understand at all why there was any need to save some rootless people. There are probably criminals and slaves among them. They have attached themselves like parasites to the mercy of the sacred maidens and are now satisfied. Claudie turned to the guy, but he did not react, and this made the paladin angry, so he grabbed him by the shoulder. The man was shocked that this dirty bastard even dared to glare at him. He asked the guy how he even dared and where he got such impudence from, and then he hit Case. "You're an arrogant guy. You need to trample them down and finish them off so they don't forget where they belong." If he is already like this, then what will he turn into when he grows up? Kais barely started to get up. The man considered him such a little crucian that he still couldn't calm down. He continues to look with that look. It looks like he will never bend even if you break every bone in him. He's so stubborn. In this case, the paladin decided to see what he would do when the sword was in front of his nose. But then Ludwig immediately came to his defense. The paladin did not understand at all where he had come from. Amelia appeared behind him and asked him what he was doing. Sacred Matter asked what was going on here. The man said that he simply decided to teach the puppy a lesson. Ludwig asked him which lesson allowed such methods, just saying what he says about the lesson of respect. The little girl smiled, but then she went and kicked him. The man was shocked and asked what she was doing. Amelia said it was also a lesson in respect. Then she asked where his respect was, then the sacred maiden stood in front of him. The man sighed and said that the paladin Claudie humbly greeted the first luminary of this world. Amelia ordered Ludwig to help Kais up. Her heart hurts for him, and the saint also feels anger. She turned to the people, and they all immediately fell to their knees and began to greet the first luminary that illuminates this world. Intellectually, she understands that they were simply avoiding trouble, and I especially wanted to spoil my relationship with the paladin. However, she does not understand at all how someone can just stand by and watch a little boy being brutally beaten. In addition, this is a follower of God, and it acts in his name. Amelia asked the man why he hit him. Claudie said that this brat ignored his words. He himself did not notice how he began to get angry with him. Amelia asked if he was saying that the boy simply did not respond, and only because of this he beat the little boy. Claudie apologized and said that he was to blame. He doesn't regret what he did one bit. It's just that in front of him, a person with great power is forced to bow his head. If Amelia showed the slightest weakness, she would be eaten alive. This is exactly what they did with Priscilla in the original. She believed in the kindness of the people who surrounded her. That's why she was betrayed. A series of treachery and vile actions broke her. Amelia would have turned away from everyone immediately, but Priscilla continued to believe and hope. She's so stupid. Amelia said that what he did was an unforgivable sin. Claudia says that he only enlightened me, divine commoners, and I didn't understand at all what a sinful desire to bring light to the minds. Amelia said he had to carry it in a human way, and I asked him if he had forgotten where he was. She asked him if he thought that everything was allowed to him since he was a Bios paladin. He is simply a disgrace to his empire. And now the residents of Rahel will think that all the paladins of Bios are like him. The saint said that he no longer had the right to enjoy God's protection. His paladin blessing was gone. The man asked in horror what she had just done. Last name said that she didn't need people like him. The man says that he is really sorry and asked her to return his blessing. He begged for a chance. Well, Amelia told him to get out of her sight. These people are no better. They are indifferent witnesses to the torture of a child, and she already regrets saving their lives. She reported that in a week, all those who survived would be interviewed. In the meantime, they should think carefully about what they do best and how they can earn a living. If they want to leave, they can leave, but if they hope to stay, they must remember why she kept them alive. Amelia saved people. The choice to remain human or to give up is theirs. She turned to Ludwig and Kais that they should leave here, and they left this place together. The room in which Kais and Harville lived was located in the Knight's Wing. Compared to the rooms of the two survivors, it was much nicer and more spacious. This is probably what built the wall between Kais and the others, but you still can't just watch a child get beaten and then act as if nothing happened. Amelia asked Kais if he was a fool and why he allowed himself to be beaten. Amelia said that it was necessary to fight back, but he didn't even try to do it. He really is some kind of fool. The guy was silent, so the girl decided to ask if he was okay. The guy told her to let him go, after which Amelia asked when they did this to his cute face. She asked him to wait and remain calm. She immediately cured him and asked if he was in pain now, and she noticed that it's still great to have divine power. Thanks to her, she was able to heal. Case asked if she was stupid. Amelia denied this because in fact she is a genius. The boy had a strange feeling as if something was tickling inside, and his soul felt warm for no reason at all. Kais is already accustomed to beatings and bad treatment. This is how the world has always been for him, but why then does this girl destroy this world with her good nature, without realizing it herself? And he also cannot forgive himself because he began to crave her kindness. He knows that no one is kind and gentle without a good reason. She definitely treats him well for a reason. Quace said he doesn't trust her. The baby didn't react to this at all. That's why the guy said again that he doesn't trust her. Amelia said she didn't care. Kais was shocked that she was not angry. The little girl didn't understand at all why she should be angry, because it was his choice to take it or not to believe it. The guy didn't understand at all why she treated him so well and what she might need from him. Case hasn't even been able to prove his usefulness yet. After he lost the duel, she began to come less and less often, and he thought that she had forgotten him. And then he again felt this difference between them. He suddenly realized that unlike him, who could come to him at any time, he himself simply did not dare to approach her. Therefore, Kais decided that she was disappointed in him, and they would never see each other again. He decided to ask why she decided to come to him like that. After all, she didn't show at all for so many days. The little girl was shocked and asked if this upset him. Amelia asked him not to be offended because she was just busy. This flowers. Quace said he was not offended. The girl asked if it was true because he looked angry. The surname said that he may not believe her because it is his right, but if he still believes her, he will never regret it. Case noticed that she was very strange. It's the first time he's seen her smile like that. He doesn't know why, but he can't take his eyes off her. Paladin Claudia was the second son of an aristocratic family with a long history. After his baptism, he became a paladin in the Holy Empire. Due to his background and superior abilities, he stood out among other paladins, and even his hot temper did not prevent those around him from admiring him. That is, it has been like this until now. Now everyone hated him and said that he was a real disgrace to the paladins. They did not understand at all how someone who serves God could do such a thing because of him. Now I condemn them. They were practically expelled from Rahel with a scandal. This is such a humiliation. It's all because of that brat of a saint. She looked like she could shut up anyone. She seems petty, but she has a lot of cunning. She's some kind of dirty orphan. The paladins informed him that they were returning to Bios without him. But he won't somehow get there on his own, although without God's help, maybe not. Claudia didn't want to believe that he would just disappear here. And all this because of some petty girl. Suddenly they came up to him and said that he was one who had lost his way, but longed for salvation. Claudia asked in shock who this man was, and the stranger said that he was the one who came to save him. The maid told her coexistently that all these were gifts in honor of her new title. There are so many of them. But the nobles of pain are not happy about all this. They're probably just trying to make connections now. Suddenly the girl noticed a familiar pattern. This gift was sent by the Duke of Ravenhook. It was exactly like that. Amelia ordered them to throw it away. Now Luciana told her reverence that this cannot be done. Well, the maid said that there was nothing wrong with that because the emperor also ordered that it be placed separately. Amelia was very happy because after all, she and her dad understood each other. The girl decided to check if there was anything useful here. Most are gemstones or handicrafts, but Dad had already given her many other gifts, so she doesn't need any more. Suddenly she came across a sword. It was quite small, just enough for a child. She brought it for Case and said it was his gift. The guy asked what it was. Amelia asked him how he couldn't know what it was because it was a sword. Although it is small, it is a sword that she personally blessed. Amelia asked Cais how yesterday went, and if anything unusual happened, Cais said everything was fine. Over the past few days, she had been coming often to see her boyfriend. She still couldn't get out of her head the confused expression on his face. He is also still a child, and he is probably lonely. From now on, Amelia must take care of him. The little girl asked if he knew that she was now the Princess of Rahel, and she asked him how about welcoming the new princess. Amelia asked him not to make such a face because it was a joke. The girl told him that it was such a strange feeling, in the sense of being the emperor's daughter. Previously, those around her did not value her, but when she became a member of the Imperial family, it seems that this world has begun to recognize that he and his father are now a family, and it makes me happy. Now she can say with confidence that he is her dad. Cais didn't understand at all why she loved him so much. The baby was surprised by such a question, so she said that he himself admires his father. But Cais said that this is different and that he is a dangerous person. Amelia knows this herself. Cais was surprised that she knew about this and still loved him. He didn't understand why at all. The little girl told him that her dad was handsome. It's a joke. He really doesn't know how to explain it to him. It is difficult for her to pinpoint a specific reason why she fell in love with him. Just at some point, I suddenly realized that she had fallen in love. Yes, her life with him was boring and lonely, and after she fell in love with him every day was joyful for her. The more time they spent together, the more she wanted to make him the happiest. The little girl thinks that loving someone so much is a real blessing. It makes you strive in the moment and look forward to tomorrow, enjoying every moment together. A life in which there is love becomes rich and vibrant. She hopes that someday he will know this happiness. Amelia said she liked him too. Cais said that she had better not say that to everyone. Amelia said that she doesn't say that to everyone. After all, he is not just someone to her, and she believes that she should tell him this. Cais became very embarrassed and told her to leave him. The girl noticed that he was so cute. It's so nice to have a little bit over the little boy. Luciana told her in the likeness that she was also small. The little girl said that she wanted to go to her dad. The maid was surprised that she wanted to do this right now and noticed that he was probably in the office. Amelia was surprised that she couldn't because she wanted to see him so badly. She asked if people could come see him for a minute. Ivangai said with a sigh that they could get together and she would ask the services if she could see him. The most beautiful thing is that she is still small. As soon as you tell her that she misses her dad, everyone tries to help her. All the adults are so stupid and don't even know what feelings she has for Melchiades. Soon she will find out everything about her dad. Luciana came and said that her reverence wanted to visit the emperor. His servant greeted her highness. He said that he would have to wait a little because he had an important conversation. The maid said there was no problem with that and they would wait. At the same time, Amelia ran away and decided that she needed to scare her dad. The door was open. She heard that he had not yet been able to determine the location. They were looking for something there. The emperor asked whether the pontiff understood everything. Amelia had no idea what they were talking about when she heard about the pontiff and the location. He couldn't guess otherwise. He wouldn't be sitting still. Most likely she is in the temple, and we need to start everything from the very beginning. This is definitely a relic. They need to find this relic even if they have to kill everyone. There is such an ominous aura there, and the little girl feels a strong desire in him to get this thing so that it doesn't happen. There's some kind of relic that the Emperor really wants to get his hands on. The novel said nothing about this. The Emperor noticed that a little rat had infiltrated here. The Emperor turned to his knight, and the little girl didn't understand at all what to do. Perhaps she should run away or stay here and apologize. The little girl opened the door and said it was her. She decided to just open the door first. Callian was simply delighted. Suddenly, she noticed that someone from the outside admired her very much. It was Aquilo. He was heading towards the girl, but the knight immediately grabbed him. Callian apologized and informed Her Highness that he would take him away in a minute. Aquilo told him to let him go. Amelia did not understand at all what it was and what had just happened, and she also wondered who it was. I think he had white hair. The father took Amelia in his arms. The baby greeted her father. His servant burst into their room and told His Highness that he was to blame. The little girl in turn said that her dad is so beautiful today and just glows like the sun. The man apologized for the mess because he had to follow the princess, but the Emperor said there was no problem and he could go. The senior servant is quite quick-witted. Actually, that's why he survived here. She seems to like him more and more. The father decided to ask his daughter why she came here. The little girl didn't know what to answer him. She would like to ask him directly what kind of relic he is looking for, and why. But she shouldn't be so interested in it now. It will look suspicious. So Amelia better change the subject. The baby said she came because I miss my dad. Of course, she decided to ask who that uncle was because he scared her so much. The Emperor said that he was nobody, just trash, and she shouldn't think about him. Amelia was simply in shock. The girl didn't quite understand why he suddenly called an ordinary person that, and she was wondering who he was. Looks like some kind of important character. Still truly a villain. Perhaps this is the person she is thinking about. But still, he can't really remember who he was. Suddenly, Dad decided to ask what his daughter was thinking about. Amelia laughed and said that naturally she was thinking about him and decided to ask if he was offended by the fact that she could be thinking about something else. Her dad is so cute, so she snuggles even more close to him. The little girl said that she only has him. Suddenly, a man came into the room with some goodies, but when he saw the Emperor with his daughter, he immediately dropped it. The man apologized and said that he would come back later. Amelia didn't understand at all who the senior servant was. It was as if he had seen something he shouldn't have. The little girl decided to ask her father if he beats the servants. Such a question led the Emperor astray, and he replied that he did not hit. The servants were in complete shock because the Emperor was smiling. Is it really the sacred maiden who influences him like that? The little girl constantly thought about what kind of relic he was looking for. The novel doesn't say a word about this. An ordinary relic is an item left in this world by a sacred maiden, a kind of divine object that is bestowed by God during the awakening of the saint's abilities. They are capable of many things to revive the dead, for example, turn back time and stuff like that. However, even such a great thing has its drawbacks. She is not omnipotent and cannot fulfill any wish. And yet each relic has its own price. She can't even pester which one her dad is looking for. Perhaps it was because of the relic that he became a villain. No matter how you look at it, nothing comes to mind. Still, the book says too little about the past of her favorite character. And Amelia herself will have a hard time finding out anything. That's why she needs more help. Ludwig came to the mistress, and she happily let him in. The knight greeted the first luminary of this world. He came to report to her that the paladin Claudi, exiled to Bios, was missing. He headed towards the capital, but then simply disappeared. The Order believes that he is dead. There are quite a few very powerful monsters where he was last seen. It is strange that they did not present this to Rochelle and his father. This is a reason for conflict, but for some reason they are silent. Something is fishy here. But Amelia doesn't know what she said, that everything was clear to her, and I decided to ask how Harville was feeling. In the morning, he woke up, ate, and immediately fell asleep. According to the doctor, his condition is gradually improving, and the lady need not worry about it. The little girl was happy to listen to this, and also decided to ask how Case was doing. The knight became embarrassed, after which Amelia told him to tell it like it is. Ludwig reported that the situation was still as gloomy. Paladins openly avoid him, and other people are in no hurry to make contact. There is still a blank wall between them and those around them. Everyone seems to think that he is now getting special treatment. Amelia asked how he reacted to this. Ludwig said that there was no reaction from him, and it seemed to him that he even liked being alone. It's like he doesn't care what people around him think of him. It's as if he is striving for loneliness, not wanting to get close to anyone. At least that's what Ludwig thinks. This is straight to the point. The case that Amelia knows was like that. In fact, he suffered from loneliness. The little girl decided to ask me if he was disgusted with Ludwig because of this. The knight said that he was still a child, and he could not be disgusted with him. The saint said that others didn't like him because of this comma, and he doesn't look like an ordinary child. He doesn't even try to pretend to be cute. Taciturn and serious, doesn't show thoughts or feelings, doesn't let anyone get close to him. He is not one of those who will be loved or praised even for his merits. Therefore, he had a hard time in life. But Amelia still wishes him happiness, but I'm not sure that I know what needs to be done for this. She is not sure about this yet, but she will try to do everything she can. The baby turned to Ludwig and asked if he believed her. The man apologized and said that he of course believed her. Amelia asked if he was honest in his words. Then she asked her maid if she believed her, and she confirmed it. This was great, and the little girl said that in that case they would have to do something for her sake. The task she gave Luciana and Ludwig was quite simple, namely talk to the survivors. As a result of this conversation, all but 3 said that they wanted to stay in Rahel. And among them, there are quite a lot of useful people, from bankrupt foreign aristocrats to criminals. It looks like they grabbed everyone indiscriminately. The little girl decided to ask the maid what about their future plans. The maid interviewed everyone and collected their answers. Luciana handed them over to the lady, and yet I decided to ask why she needed all this. Amelia didn't know what to say at first. She said that it is quite difficult to simply analyze everyone's abilities, but at least there will be an approximate database. But the maid didn't understand why she needed it. Amelia said that then, even taking into account the fact that someone would tell a lie, she would still have an idea of where and how best to place all these people. Still, it is better to distribute them according to usefulness and talent. Luciana was quite surprised by this answer, after which Amelia asked what was wrong with her. The maid didn't even know what to answer. She just thinks it's better for others not to know how smart she is. Amelia realized that her maid would be in danger. The little girl said that it was okay, because as long as she was around, everything would be fine. The maid promised that she would try even harder to be useful to her. Amelia was very happy and hugged her Luciana. The maid decided to ask what would happen to those who wanted to leave. Amelia told her to forget about them because it was already clear where they would go. Luciana also decided to ask what her mistress would do with those who remained. The little girl said it was a secret for now. Guests appeared at the estate of the Duke of Ravenhook, whose identity they could not establish. The emperor asked again Sasha that this time there were 2 of them, and they immediately called a doctor. It seemed that one of them was injured. The Duke of Ravenhook hardly started a charity. Perhaps he planned to harm the new princess, and they better take action before something bad happens. Achilles said that if it came to that, he would definitely have to take a closer look at the princess. The emperor immediately refused him this. Achilles did not understand at all why he was doing this to them. Melchiades said that he annoys him, who can know what is on his mind. Aquilo said that he had served him faithfully for so many years. The Duke believed that His Highness was too cruel to him. After all, he just wants to see the princess. Last time the gentleman didn't even let her greet her properly. Then he also forbade you to enter the small palace. This is unfair. The emperor immediately called Callion, and he immediately began to take him out. Achilles said that this is unfair. The emperor said that Achilles had already been completed, so the next one could come. The man asked the gentleman what was wrong with the Duke, and believed that he was rebelling against him. The emperor told him not to think about him and asked what his business was. It was the Marquis Bartolci, which was called the Western Eagle. The man said that he had a question about the appointment of a new princess. Everything regarding this has already been decided long ago. This is so because of which many complaints began to be received from the courtiers, and he can't hold it back indefinitely. So he asks His Highness how about organizing a show. The emperor asked if he was tired of living. The Marquis knew what he was getting into by telling him this, but Melchiades angrily asked if he really wanted him to choose the empress. The Marquis said that it was not necessary to marry, he just had to take her at least as a concubine, and no one would object to his choice. Melchiades said that there would never be an empress in Rahel, and he might not even ask. The Marquis said that his lack of a woman could have a bad influence on the princess. The man asked his creature to simply think for itself. The princess will be left completely alone at social events without her stepmother, and he can only imagine how confused Her Highness would be at such a reception. The Emperor did not understand why she would be alone when he was there. The Marquis said that there are still moments that even he cannot make up for. Therefore, his faithful servant asks him to think about it. The Marquis's words make sense, and for Amelia's sake, he agreed with it. Well, the Emperor has a condition. The Marquis must obtain permission from his daughter, then he will choose his wife. It won't be easy. The Marquis agreed to this and said that he would try to persuade Her Highness. There's something else. The Marquis asked the Emperor if he was still taking his medication. He heard his condition became very unstable after that incident. He was told about this in Dmitri. The Emperor said that he need not worry about it. The Marquis did not understand at all how he could not worry about his master. He noted that the Emperor should be more careful. The Emperors reported that the princess had arrived. Melchiades allowed her to enter and told the Marquis to leave, but then he refused. Apparently, he still needed to see the princess. The little girl came into the room and was very happy to see her dad. Amelia immediately ran up to him and told him that she missed him very much. The Marquis will notice that Her Highness loves her father so much. Amelia confirmed this because she loves her dad very much. The little girl decided to ask who this grandfather was. The Marquis introduced himself, and she realized that this was the same Western Eagle. The man was surprised with you that he knew the coat of arms of their family. It was an honor for him, too. He became interested in knowing who taught her this. The girl said no one. After all, she doesn't have any teachers. The Marquis asked His Highness if this was true. The Marquis was horrified that the Emperor had not yet taken up the education of the princess. Melchiades did not understand what kind of education because she was only 6 years old. But the Marquis insisted that it was time for her to study. Leaving such a smart princess without proper education is simply unthinkable. This is in the interests of the state and all humanity. The Emperor drove the Marquis away. He decided to give in because of the princess, but only this time, and asked the master to take care of her education. With that, he took his leave. The little girl is brave because her dad just got told off. This means that he can be scolded. The man agreed that he scolded him and then decided to ask what business she came to him for. Today, Amelia came to protest. Until now, she has endured for the sake of his social position, but she can no longer remain silent. The Emperor did not understand at all who taught her such words, after which I decided to ask what kind of protest she had there. The little girl asked him to listen to her carefully. Her name is Amelia Priscilla Rexi Rahel Bios. The Emperor asked if there was any problem with this. The little girl said it was a huge problem. After all, she doesn't have a last name. Even Bios is mentioned here, but there is no last name. Her father didn't quite understand why she needed a surname. Amelia said that it was too natural she was needed. Her father accepted her just as she accepted him, but there is not a word about it in the surname. So she asks him to complete the last name. She suggested that he come up with a common surname just for them. The father asked if this meant that he would have to give up Rexai. But the little girl said that this was not so. This is the only way to show everyone that he is her dad, and they will leave Rexai. They will simply add the last name she chooses. This is Khan. She gradually began to forget the name she used before getting here. The little girl asked her father what his last name was, Rexai Khan. The Emperor asked her to write it on paper, after which the little girl asked him to read it, Amelia Priscilla Rexai Rahel Bios Khan, and also Melchiades Rexai Lucille Rahel Khan. The baby was very happy because now they have the same last name in this world, only they have such a surname. The little girl asked if her dad was happy. The man smiled and said that he was happy too. From today on, the Imperial family name will be Rahel Khan. According to the law of the Empire, everyone whose name is the same as Princess Amelia's will have to change their name. All the aristocrats were shocked that he was changing the surname of the ruling gate to such a strange one. They are very interested in where the Khan part of the surname even came from and what it even means. And one more thing. If he manages to get the princess's consent, he will arrange a viewing for the future empress. The final decision on this matter rests with the princess. They can try to get her consent. The girl approached Miss Helena and asked if she had heard the news that the emperor was going to organize a show. All who survive by the grace of her likeness as a sacred maiden must hear her will. While they are here, anything they desire can be purchased upon request, but they have the right to only one such request per day. They thought that they would be forced to serve or be entrusted with hard work, but they were ready to give them what they themselves wanted. She thinks about them a lot, unlike all those aristocrats. They were very grateful and prayed to the goddess for her mercy. The people rejoiced at the magnanimous orders of the Sacred Virgin. Basically, people asked for enough food, old clothes that were not worn out, and comfortable places for their children to sleep. They tried to use this opportunity, which occurs only once a day, as sparingly as possible. However, everything changed after one person's request. The man said that he wanted to drink and asked for alcohol. It all started with one person asking for alcohol. The man kept asking for drinks the next day, and the day after that. Everyone wondered whether this could be done since the saint could hardly approve such requests. Well, when the man's request was granted, more and more people began asking for drinks. There are many people who like to drink. And then, in order to get more alcohol, they began to threaten other survivors and demand that they get them drinks at their own expense. From that day on, an invisible border was created in the area where the survivors settled. The man got very drunk. He can't believe that he can be as much as he wants. He began to say that Her Reverence was truly a holy man. The man noticed that this was so touching. If he does as he asks, he will give him enough payload to last him the rest of his life. And today, the crowded procession with gifts does not stop. Amelia noticed a strange gift. The maid said that this was a gift from the one whose life she saved last time, from Earl Douglas. He sent this gift. This is the same graph of repentance he wrote hundreds of times, how grateful he was to her for not letting him tear out her tongue. I wrote so much that I bent my back. Amelia will throw it away anyway, but at least she'll take a look at what's there. Inside was a fountain pen. The maid said that she was from the Sagrash workshop. This is simply a masterpiece. It must have been hard to get. When Amelia heard there that it was a masterpiece, she felt sorry to throw it away. And if so, she will give it to her daddy. Under this pretext, she will see his face again. The maid said that she would call Luciana. It's still cold, so she'll dress the mistress. The palace is noisy now, so the saint must be careful. Amelia asked what she was talking about and why it was noisy there, and the maid apologized and said that it was difficult for her to talk about it. The little girl didn't quite understand what it was just now. Amelia hoped that nothing had happened, but for some reason Margarita put it so strangely. Luciana told Her Highness not to worry too much. The little girl said that she was interested, so she couldn't help but worry. Suddenly, the baby got caught and fell. The maid immediately rushed to her and asked if she was okay or everything, but the little girl said she had a headache. A woman stood in front of her. Amelia noticed that she was beautiful. The maid began shouting for them to look around and be careful since they were bringing children with them. Her mistress ordered her to stop. She apologized to Her Imperial Highness because they did not immediately recognize her, and she asks to forgive her and her maid for their ignorance. Amelia was surprised that they knew her, and the woman asked in surprise who in the palace might not know the princess. The little girl decided to ask who she was. The woman said her name was Helena. The little girl had already heard this name somewhere. As a connoisseur of beauty, she could not forget such a face. Such charm could not go unnoticed in the original. So for some reason, she can't remember. For the woman, it was part of meeting the princess. She wanted to visit her earlier, but she didn't feel well. She was so sorry about it. Amelia said that everything was fine because she understood everything. Helena added that Her Highness is still a very wonderful person. Amelie didn't know any other way she should be a beautiful, kind, sweet, charming, and lovely girl. Luciana noticed that she was feeling carried away again, only this time about herself. Now it's clear why His Highness adores her so ardently. Helena added that it was still fate to meet her, so she asked to be allowed to give her advice. Since the decree of the inspectors was about to be issued, many different ladies arrived at the palace, so she must be careful. And now Helena has to go. The little girl was surprised because in the original, her daddy didn't get married. One way or another, she didn't understand why she should be careful. Strange women immediately ran to her, greeted her, and were very happy to see the princess. One woman said that she was glad to see her and that she was the daughter of the Dampeln family. Another woman said she was from the Borcella family. There was also a woman from the Jimeneros family. Amelia didn't understand at all why they flocked to her so unexpectedly. She really wanted to be saved. They constantly wanted something from her. She simply couldn't stand it anymore. They asked to read, asked to look at them, and somehow talk to them. The decision to choose an empress depends only on the will of the princess. The little girl was in complete shock when she found out that her dad said that. Her father handed her a bomb. Margarita apologized to the princess, but she had to tell her about it. Luciana asked her to keep it a secret because she was afraid that Her Highness would worry. Amelia said everything was fine, so the young ladies ran towards her when they saw her walking nearby. Over the past few days, she's been getting swarmed by ladies. Over the past week, her life has been ruined because of them. She sees neither Dad, nor Ludwig, nor Caius. She must think about the future, take care of her father, and seduce the main character. This can't go on any longer. The baby asked Margaret to call her maid here. Margarita did not want to leave with her because something could happen to him. While she was leaving, Amelia said that her uncle's guard was standing nearby, and she was fine, so she should hurry up. Margarita said that she should stay here and not move from this very place. Everyone is too protective of her. And the little girl doesn't consider herself some kind of 6-year-old, but that's what she is. Melchiades, whom the little one knows, would never have signed up for this, so it must be the work of his vassals. If she thinks about it this way, it seems to her that something unusual happened around this time in the novel. Since she arrived in Rahel before the beginning of the novel, perhaps this will happen now. But for some reason she forgot about it. There must be an attempt on the Emperor's life. Amelia realized that Dad was now in danger.